Welcome, 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 one and all, to yet another episode of WIC TV. It's a cross-ideological space where we come together to talk about issues both political and cultural, from the silly to the serious. And I've been thinking about this topic for a while. It's going to be the main theme of today's show, but it's not going to be the only thing we talk about. This is, at the end of the day, a call-in show. So I have posted in the YouTube chat, and I've pinned it, a link to the Discord. So if you want to talk to us about anything as we go, you're going to click that link. You're going to accept the rules by clicking my face emoji in the rules page. Then you're going to jump backstage. It's at the top of the server. And when we're ready for you, we'll pull you in. But today I wanted to discuss, and it's related to the Plattner stuff. I wanted to discuss moral character and how that should weigh in our consideration of how we select our candidates, how we select our elected representatives. I also want to kind of discuss the vote blue no matter who stuff. And again, like I said, it's related, and how I think that that's the wrong way of doing things. And we need to vote blue, but it matters who, right? I do think that Democrats are the best choice and have been for a while. But it matters, right? Like, character matters. Their record matters. All these things matter. And we need to stop excusing extremely red flags simply because we like the person's policies, or we dislike the enemy, or we think it's very important to defeat the enemy. But we have a lovely co-host as well, who I want to give her a chance to introduce herself, tell people who you are, what you do, why we should listen to you. And we'll kind of get her opinion on things, and we'll go from there. So, Kay, tell people who you are, what you do, introduce yourself. Go ahead.
All right. My name is Kay. I am a Canadian. I do stream a couple times a week. I host a show with Tally called Talkin' Shit. I'm on YouTube at Morally Neutral, and that you'll see me in the chat as Morally Loaded. I tend to. My main interest is, I guess, looking at how people form their political opinions and how people assess their like political ideologies. And I've been particularly interested in polarization and kind of like what's happening to society and culture as a result of politics.
Well, sounds good. She's been a mod in my community, and been circling around for a while. I figured I'd reach out to her and kind of give her a chance to take your calls and talk with the community directly. Um, I guess I want to start. What do you think went wrong from like an outsider perspective, from a Canadian perspective, right? I know you guys don't vote in the elections and things like that,
Yeah.
but like what's gone wrong with our politics here in America? What is your opinion? Go ahead.
Oh, wow. What's gone wrong? That's like a very long, multifaceted answer. But I think right now, the main thing, um, I think the polarization is pushing each side further and further apart. And I think like the entrenchment into different camps is really bad and unhealthy. I think I think it started before Trump, but I think the Trump era really has like ramped it up a lot. And I think a lot of the reaction to that, while might be reasonable, while it might make sense, it has also done damage. And I think that there are costs to polarization. I think there are like psychological costs to the people, to the population. Um, yeah. So I think that that's kind of like where it is right now.
Sure. When you say polarization, what do you mean? Like, when I think of well, let me just ask you this. I'm a Democratic voter. I don't like Republicans. I don't like their policies. I don't like especially MAGA Republicans. Would that make me polarized though?
No, no, no.
No. What
I
make
think
Okay, so what makes you polarized? What's the difference between someone who's just like someone who votes for a party in general, and someone who's a polarized person in your mind?
so polarized. I mean, like people who like effective polarization. So having disdain and contempt for people who vote differently than you do. Not not just because you dislike, I guess, the party that they're voting for. You can have contempt for people's specific politics, but looking at the entire group um, with contempt. And like the left does this in certain ways, and the right does this in
No,
certain
I get
ways.
you. Well, I think that's also kind of it plays into the main theme today. There were a lot of people who supported Plattner, even though they've expressed misgivings about a lot of
Mhm.
the red flags that he had. Like, we had Peace go on the other day, and he's just one example, and there's plenty of others who were on record saying, "I don't like this guy. I think he's a liar. I think I don't believe him and his excuses he's given for the Nazi tattoo. I am very wary of some of the accusations that have come out against him. But even with all those red flags, even with everything lining up in place, they were like, well, he's still better than Susan Collins. And I think that it led them to making an endorsement, right? And this is not just someone who said, well, I'm not going to endorse Collins, but I don't like Plattner either, right? This is people who actively put their endorsement behind a candidate, right?
Mhm.
Plattner. Um, I think that weighing of, well, they're better than the enemy is killing us as a people, as a party, and as a just as voters in general, and as people who are politically minded in general. It's making us worse, and I don't know how to stop that. But we need to weigh moral character much more seriously than we do now, and I think that the Plattner situation kind of demonstrates that in a very very prescient, poignant way. I don't know. What are some of your thoughts? And gang, remember this is a call-in
Well,
show, so if you have questions for us, or if you disagree with us, call in.
I think especially because it's Susan Collins. I don't think that she is like a far right MAGA Republican. So I think like that has to come into the equation, right? So it's not Plattner against somebody, I don't know, like equally radical on the right, because he is kind of, I'm gonna say he's radical left, but he's further left than like most Democratic senators, we could say, with some of his stuff. But I'm not sure. I think the vote blue no matter who works as like a private voting strategy. But when it becomes something you begin to advocate for and say out loud, it like reduces the incentive for like politicians and the parties to choose better candidates and to um like rise to the occasion. So it might be something that comes down to it at the ballot box. When you're starting to go publicly and saying you should vote blue no matter who, it kind of like gives away the whole game and the incentive. Like why will the candidates and the in the primaries and the people recommending them or finding them, why will they find better people?
Nah, it's okay. Let's loosen up a little bit, right? Let's do some stretches. Okay, a little stiff. It's not scary, I promise. Okay, it's not scary. I get what you're saying though. I don't know if I agree entirely, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Even as a even as a private voting heuristic, it's something I've always had problems with. Like, there at the current moment, the new battle, if you will, the new argument, the new discussion, I guess, is who will the party nominate to replace Plattner? And there's been three main kind of there's main there's been three major candidates that have thrown their hat in the ring so far. One is a gentleman by the name of Troy Jackson. One is the Secretary of State of Maine, Sheena Bellows, And the other is someone who's run before, right? Like I think they've all run before, but I think he was in the running to be governor. Nivesh Shah. I hope I'm pronouncing his name right. Shah, Shah. Okay. These are kind of like the three major candidates that says, I'm in, I'm willing to accept the nomination, I can beat Susan Collins, etc. And already the people who were disastrously wrong about Plattner are trying to push the inevitability of Jackson, of Troy Jackson, I believe. All of these candidates, to my knowledge, none of them have a Nazi tattoo. None of them have raped any women. None of them have done any kind of violence that I would find disqualifying. So whoever gets the nod, I'm inclined to support. But this idea that we can't look at the people who made endorsements of Plattner or who campaigned with Plattner and demonstrated bad judgment in doing so, that we can't point that out and use that as kind of like a measure to say, hey, I don't know if I trust you anymore. I think that you've done something that has demonstrated that you are not able to correctly parse data or to correctly make judgments about people. Now, like, look, this isn't a situation where no one knew what was going on with Plattner, that there was no red flags, that no one could have seen this coming. Everyone should have seen this coming. Everyone should have known, since the Nazi tattoo and his lie about it, what kind of person this is. So to choose to campaign with that guy anyway, it's a mark against you. I don't know. And I think that should weigh more than it's currently doing. Go ahead, respond. I'm sorry.
No, for sure. People who ran cover for him, for people who endorsed him, people who were supporting him and making excuses for everything up until now, 100%. Like they have some, I don't know how you want to frame it, but like of course you're going to assess that, like, and look at that when you see them talk in the future and you see their ability to, I don't know, like give a recommendation for somebody. But I'm just saying, like, it comes down to, I can understand somebody like in a ballot, like in an election, like there's two choices and choosing the blue person, but not going out publicly and saying everybody else should do this and here are the reasons why. So I understand it as a personal choice that somebody makes, but I'm saying that there is a difference between making the personal choice when you're like a Mainer making that decision and then advocating for everybody else to do it too and using it as a purity test, like the whole blue no matter who, to the nth degree, right? And you follow it down and it loses coherence at some point.
I do agree with the delineation you're making here. I don't know. I just think that there should be more lines, even for private people who go into that voting booth. If I were in Maine, and say Plattner doesn't drop out, and gang, to be clear, he has not officially dropped out. He's announced that he would, but Plattner says a lot of things. And at this point, until he actually does it, I don't know if I believe him. There's been reporting from Axios and other sources that he is planning to do so Monday, which is the deadline. To be clear, he has to do it by Monday at like 5 Eastern. But I'm so curious why he isn't doing it now. And so I have suspicions, and they're a little conspiratorial, right? But they are suspicions that he's hanging on and hoping, and he's going to just kind of just stay in anyway. And that's like the worst. That's the worst timeline, I think, for us. That's going to be really bad if he does that. However, even if he does, if he gets in there and he is the candidate and he is versus Collins, I think that if I was a Mainer and I was going in, as much as I think Trump is a danger, as much as I do not like Collins' voting record, I could not pull the trigger or pull that lever, whatever, for a guy who did what Plattner is accused of doing. I just could not do that.
Of course.
So this blue no matter who has to have limits. And I would judge, and to be clear, I would judge someone who does. Like, I would judge someone who's willing to overlook rape and
Mhm.
pull the lever for the candidate of their choice. We're gonna get to callers now. Word, you were backstage. Why'd you leave? I'm gonna pull you in like right now. We had a caller and I was ranting and he left.
And they're gone.
Hopefully he gets here. But yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying that people are willing to overlook bad behavior, and I'm not talking just like there's a threshold here.
Of
Someone
course.
cheats on their wife, that's not good, but I'm like, okay, I can overlook that. Someone maybe
No,
did some
I
drugs in the past. Okay, not great, but okay, like fair enough. But this is just of a different kind. Hello, Streamrift.
Hello.
Hi.
oh,
We
How
got
are
our
you
first
this evening?
caller.
Yeah, I'll be honest, this is a little embarrassing. I was misclicking. Although I do love the idea that it matters who. We've seen an awful lot of polarization with politics, and people are like, "Well, I'm just going to vote for my guy." Uh and the important thing is that we're actually voting for people who are the right kind of people. So yeah, glad to have you guys having this discussion.
Do you think that the Republicans should probably have that kind of discussion too, given the choices that they've
I
made of recent?
I think so. Wick, wag of the finger. I think this red versus blue, Republicans versus Democrat is too simple of a take. I think the fact of the matter, voters need to be more thoughtful about the primaries, about who's getting on the ticket. We shouldn't be letting the GOP or the DNC basically selecting who's going to happen. I'll pick on the Democrats a little bit about the Kamala nomination and the way that we went through with no primary there. And also the Bernie bros, you guys got messed over pretty hard too. So I think, yeah, I think the fact of the matter is like moral character should matter in politics. I think in a lot of times, I culturally am Mormon. We need people that are leading countries and they're setting policies that are really helping with a good character. We
I
don't
agree.
we
No,
yeah.
I don't disagree with your advocacy here. I just doubt. I don't know if you're the messenger for this one, buddy.
How do
Right?
you
Like
mean?
I don't
I
know.
ran for public office. I have good character. I got 28% of the vote with $1,500.
I'm saying you're choosing to throw your weight in advocacy behind the right.
How do you get there?
I think that, well, first of all, would I be am I mistaken in that you generally advocate for right-leaning candidates in general, I'm talking about, generally advocating for right-leaning candidates, Republican candidates, MAGA kind of candidates? Am I wrong or am I incorrect?
Yeah, I mean, and I'll share a detail you might like that's going to put us a little closer. Not that we have to be close; we can disagree. However, when I was running on the Republican ticket for state senate, well, candidates are arguing, "I'm 100% Trump. I'm 110% Trump. No, I'm 200% Trump." I said I was like 80, 90% Trump. I don't like the idea of the purity of I'm just going to vote for someone because they happen to share the R or the D, right? If they're saying, well, I'm a conservative and I'm going to go for this. In fact, I think there's been a lot of Republican candidates that are just horrific, like Mitch
Sure,
McConnell. I mean, I
sure.
haven't seen a lot of folks if we're doing the red versus blue, I'll say Mitch McConnell's a piece of shit. Now, can we do Nancy Pelosi and the left won't offer me the olive branch of saying they're also disappointed with their representatives?
So here's a problem that I'm having right now.
Yeah.
Is that yes, I am disappointed in some of the candidates and some of the politicians that the Democrats have. I think Ro Khanna has very much disappointed me in a lot of ways. Fetterman has very much disappointed me in a lot of ways. There's a few that I could name and that I could go through that I think have demonstrated bad judgment or a willingness to overlook really horrific things in order to push their agenda. Um, all that said, I think that the Republicans right now have a much worse problem in that there are almost all of them are willing to overlook rape in order to win. Whereas, at least on the Democrat side, I can point to a few candidates, AOC included, who refused to endorse Plattner, right? Who did not come out and campaign with him, did not come out and get on stage with him because these accusations were kind of building steam and things like that. I think that demonstrates a huge difference when we go through these things. My advocacy today, however, isn't a red versus blue thing. I am talking to the left-leaning people and saying, hey, we need to once again put moral character as something that we weigh when we are looking at our candidates and choosing our elected representatives. But when you come on, and I love having you on, buddy, you make me money, but when you come on and you say, well, I think it matters too, I don't know if I believe you.
Well, so here's the problem. Here's the problem that I have.
Because let me finish
Okay.
this real quick. It's one more thing.
Yep.
Because when it comes down to it, you tend to put your weight behind MAGA candidates more than Democrats.
When have you ever seen me, quote unquote, put my weight against any candidate?
Well, that's why I
MAGA
asked for
or otherwise.
clarification. Do you, if it came down to it, and we had a generic state with a generic ballot, and on one side of the ticket you had a generic MAGA Republican, and on the other side of the ticket you had a generic Democrat, who would you support? In most cases,
I mean,
assuming
all
there's
things
no
equal, I lean
huge
right. Sure.
difference.
Assuming all things equal, I lean right. I do have, you said a supportive rape comment I want to get back to whenever you're ready. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, so I just want to make clear. Maybe I didn't hear your answer. You tend to support the Republicans in that instance?
Well, I think so.
instead?
The way I would vote, and if you're simplifying support to who you'd vote for in the ballot box, that's one thing. I think for myself in particular, the type of support, if someone's leaning their support, they're actually going out there working on influencing the votes of others. For example, I have been vocal on social media, including my professional network on LinkedIn, of almost 7,000 folks about political matters. But it's almost universally, it is universally about the candidates. I don't say vote red no matter who. I don't say I'm a lifelong Republican and I've never voted other than Republican. So I don't as far as my support of candidates go, the fact of the matter is I think that even at a local level, the GOP is shaping who the candidates are that are allowed to get on the ballot. I think that that's far more pernicious than a lot of other problems that we have
Well,
with it. The fact of the matter is, if we're going to say,
Yeah.
just to hit on the rape thing here, if we're going to say that, well, Republicans are more okay with rape, the fact of the matter is the Biden administration, under my conservative views, and I don't think it's a particularly hot take, there's been massive amounts of human trafficking at the border that have led to lots of rape, human trafficking, crimes of all sorts. And so if we're going to say, well, this candidate was accused of a thing a while ago, which unfortunately a lot of candidates will get, I think the timing is always really peculiar.
Credibly
Yeah,
accused. I want to make that clear. Like, simply having someone say it happened is a lot different than having credible, backed up accusations against you. The elephant in the room here is Trump, who has not only credible accusations of this against him, but he's been found civilly liable for it in a court of law. This has gone through, and he's been found to be civilly liable for this. And when the Supreme
Why
Court,
wasn't it criminal?
and when the Supreme Court recently heard a case to overturn it, they denied that. It's just
why wasn't it a criminal though? Right? If this was a sexual assault, that's grievous, and no one should be doing that. I'm very anti-sexual assault. Why wasn't there a criminal claim? Why wasn't there a police report? Why didn't that happen?
Because a few things. As I understand it, the statute of limitations exists, and it had run out. And
why not at the time then? No, like this is a problem I have. Why are these always allowed to be ticking time bombs? Why is it at Kavanaugh's hearing that we're having this happen? Why is it that all these years later this stuff comes out? And I'm not saying I'm not even saying I necessarily subscribe to the idea that there should be a statute of limitations on these types of crimes, but it is challenging to have a society where allegedly actions happen and it can be decade or decades later it comes to light. And it's a challenge. Maybe we need to have more victim support so that way if there's an accusation, it can happen. But
yes,
you just sort of glaze past by saying, I'm basically saying tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of rapes are happening as a result of the Democrats'
and
border
not
policy.
one of them should be an elected official. That's my official
if I'm
position
anti-rape,
TV.
So if I'm anti-rape, why would I support a party that is facilitating the mass trafficking of humans, including rape? So
Because
that's where there's
Wait,
it's
can I?
kind of
Because
challenging.
I'm here just real quick to address these two things. One, the timing thing. Like, okay, I understand timing can be weird, but if there's stuff beyond the timing that we can use to verify it, timing really could be a coincidental factor of maybe casting suspicion. But if we have stuff to override it, who gives two shits, right? I think the Graham Plattner thing is a great example where you could say the timing looks weird, but we have credible accusations. There's credible accounts of it, right? We have emails to the therapist where she's saying this. We have friends corroborating it. That's fine. The second thing I would say is the response to like the Biden causing like the Biden policy causing rapes. That's like a fine thing to say. That's why you don't vote Democrats. And this is why I think it's weird. No offense, Riff, to have like a person who isn't a Democrat in a conversation about Democrats, because it's a question about what kind of moral character do we want from our candidates. It's not about policy stuff. And the point we're saying is there. I think Wick's point is there needs to be some kind of moral barrier to running for office. So even if you want to say the policies themselves are bad, one, I don't think anyone's going into making these policies saying we want rape or we think rape is good. And two, the other thing is obviously that like even if we think the policies are bad, the goal here is to get better quality candidates because we think there should be some moral barrier to office. So saying what are the policies kind of just isn't responsive to the conversation we're having here. It's a question of who should be representing us, who should be in our elected office. And the point we can say is that Republicans aren't looking past Republican voters and Republican people are willing to look past moral quality.
That's crap.
Wait, I'm not. First of all, I do agree with that.
That's crap.
I would even argue Democrat voters are also willing to look back moral failures. And Wick's point is that's a problem.
What's crap is for you to sit here and say, if we're here to talk about Democrats needing to be holding their candidates to some moral standard, stop talking about Republicans if you're just talking about Democrats.
The reason we're bringing up Republicans is because
the reason I brought that up is because the reason I brought that up is in relation to it being brought up. I agree. This isn't a question about Republicans. We don't expect Republicans to do it. Then why bring up Republicans?
Why are you coming in here talking about it?
Because you're here as a Republican to talk about how Democrats need to change. But I don't think that you should have a. I don't think you get a seat at this table, buddy.
Well, you brought me in.
Yeah, that's wait. That is true.
Because you are calling it. I did this. Let me make it very clear. Let me make it very clear. I did this in order to say that, hey, people who voted for Trump or supported Trump do not get to weigh in on this conversation. Does that make sense?
It seems like your mouth is saying yes, but your mouth is saying. Your
mouth
is saying no.
Wait. He's right. You did need to bring in Rift to say that. You could have said, Rift, I see you in the back. I'm only talking to Dems today. I do agree. There's a valid thing. They were like, if you want to keep it to Dems, you probably.
If I'm going to talk about someone, I want them here so they can respond.
I mean, fair enough. I just think that
well, and I do want to hit on a key point that kind of. I don't want to get distracted noise. Storm,
so just a little bit
like chatting with you. We can have better conversations than this.
Yeah,
and to bring this into right now.
Continue.
I think that all of the political class. Literally, every candidate that gets on a ballot is a part of a group that doesn't give a fuck about the rank and file voters. When I was talking with our good friend Pisco and Dev earlier this week, one of the major points I was making that I believe is as relevant here as it is in any other discussion about candidate selection is I don't believe the rank and file Democrats are really selecting their representatives. To be honest, if I talk to the rank and file Democrats out there, the fact of the matter is most of them.
I just disagree. But we do have other callers.
All right, friend.
In Stream Rift.
All right, cool.
Thank you for calling in.
Bye, buddy.
Is there anything else you want to say to us while you're here, Twink Twink?
Your general argument here so far, like I only tuned in for the past 5-10 minutes. Your general argument is like the Plattner situation kind of raises this barrier of like we need to filter for moral character, right?
Yes.
Okay. I'm curious. You with Josiah the other day, you said that if it was the case that like all this came out after the deadline, Plattner was still the candidate, you would vote for Collins over Plattner, right? Or at the very least, you wouldn't.
I would not vote. To be clear,
yeah,
I would sit out.
Okay.
I think we need to make it a red line, a serious red line, that if you do certain things, if you cross a certain threshold, then you lose all support from all of us.
Sure.
And I couldn't give you the exact threshold, but rape
that's what I was gonna,
passes that threshold for me.
Sure,
right?
And I'm willing to agree with you on that. That like, if you want to say rape is the threshold, it's a perfectly reasonable threshold. My issue is, how do we draw the line of this threshold for other people? Right. One of the big critiques that we made of the left was saying, you're not voting for Harris, you're not voting for Clinton. What the hell, right? Look what it's cost us, right? Supreme Court seat for Clinton could be up on the grabs here for Plattner, right? Obviously, again, I'm like the question is like you obviously say their reasons aren't based in fact or whatnot, but like the qualms with the Biden administration, even if you think there wasn't a genocide, their problems with the Biden administration was we think you are funding something that is gratuitous and awful. That's a subjective opinion of like that's too far for us, right? But you don't view that as legitimate. So how do we filter out thresholds?
I think that
It's a different question, right? Like that's not a question of somebody's moral character. That's a question about
Well,
like
they
an
would say
administration
Biden.
policy.
They would say Biden's funding is a representative of his moral character. Number one, but number two, it's a moral red line. It's not about. It's a moral red line of like this is not even like it could be
Yes,
good policy, but
I
it's
don't
so
have a
bad that we don't
problem.
think it's okay.
Sure, I don't have a problem with people putting a moral red line. I think that more people should. But I think that a lot of the people are putting this red line in a very disingenuous way. I think that their problem isn't just he's supporting a genocide. I think that the problem is he's supporting Israel. And I find that red line to be spurious and a problem for me. Like the Trump especially, right? Given like this red line, Trump is doing it worse, right? He's supporting Israel more. He's funding a genocide even more than Biden ever would. So when we have these things, like Collins doesn't, to my knowledge, have any credible accusations of rape against her or that she's been raping people. Do you know of any of these accusations that maybe weigh
Against
in on
Collins?
this?
Against Collins, you said?
Yes, Collins specifically. Yeah.
Not really, but I guess what I was getting at was like, I had something I completely lost it. Give me a second.
Take your time.
I kind of like get what you're saying of like I think these are spurious red lines, but like I imagine Josiah or Pisco might say to you, well, yeah, these are spurious red lines, but and you also brought like Trump on the other end of it, right? Of like, well, look at what Trump is. On the other end of it, they see Collins, they see we could be losing the Supreme Court seat, we could be having someone who's gonna like promote better, like worse shit in the Senate. So while yes, maybe there's these moral failures, there's such a huge trade off that like maybe it's worth it to look past, right? And what that means is that like you kind of are doing the same thing, but obviously the threshold is different. So I'm not even saying that what you're doing is necessarily wrong. I'm asking how do we differentiate these beyond? Well, I think those are spurious because someone like Josiah will say, "Well, I think your red line is saying even if the other candidate's worse, the moral quality getting in the way is
answer
spurious."
to that question cannot be, well, then no one should have a red line then.
I'm not disagreeing. I'm not proposing
Okay.
that, but
That's
I'm
my
asking
point
is,
because there's a lot of people.
yeah.
The whole saying is vote blue. Vote blue no matter who.
100%.
And the
But
argument that Hutch, Pisco, others have made is they would vote for Epstein over these things.
It's obvious.
And
I think the vote
shows,
no matter who.
So hold on,
always,
can I finish and I let you go,
for
right?
Sure, for sure.
And can I elaborate on this? Explain.
Yeah, go for it.
That shows that there is a lack of a red line that needs to be fixed. Now, we can have an argument or a disagreement or a discussion on where those lines should be drawn, and I'm happy to have that discussion. I think that's a useful discussion. But my point today, mainly, is to showcase there needs to be a red line.
Sure. But like, I guess what I was getting at, because one, I think vote blue no matter who is always supposed to be interpreted as vote blue because the blue is as long as the blue is the better candidate than the other option, right? That's kind of the idea, right? So if like you had like if you had someone running on the Democratic ticket that's basically MAGA, and you had like a neocon on the right on a Republican ticket, like maybe that's a situation where we don't vote blue no matter who, because the idea is vote for the better candidate. That's like as long as the other side's better. But secondly, what I was going to get at is I don't even have an issue with the red line idea. My point is I'm curious of how you differentiate your red line from the
Well, I think mine is based up on fact, and it's just based on my. It's based on. My
I guess my
morality.
point is there's some level of subjectivity there, right?
Sure.
I guess it gets hard for me to see, like, if I do buy into your thing, right? I struggle to empathize with the idea of like, well, why are we critiquing like these far left Dems? So they have a valid argument too.
No, they don't, because they're factually incorrect in their statements. Like they factually are wrong, and we can point that out.
Moral
like
judgment,
for example,
right?
if someone comes out and says, "Hey, I don't believe Plattner did these things. I think that this is a factually wrong thing," right? Like these accusations are factually false, and I can show you that they're factually false, then fair enough. But the people who's the line.
So I get what you're saying. Can I maybe like try and work this back? Because you were calling for him to drop out back in
Yes, because I think there was enough evidence that there were going to be more accusations coming out, like of this nature.
Sure. I think I tried to ask you this yesterday, I think, or 2 days ago, and maybe a valuable ask again. Let's say that we knew for a fact no more allegations coming out. I think you said you would still probably not vote for him, correct?
Say one more time.
Like we knew no more accusations were coming out before this recent story. Basically, when the last time you had this panel, I forget. Did you say you would still not vote for him?
So if the last accusation that we got was the New York Times one,
Yes.
and we knew that nothing else, or we had a, are we talking like I have
Hypothetically,
a
you
crystal ball
100%
that I
knew.
know for 100%?
Yeah.
or I
Hypothetically,
suspect?
you 100% knew. Hypothetically, you 100% knew.
I still wouldn't vote for him because I think that
Sure.
what happens is, and the reason the moral character matters not just when we're choosing candidates, but for the people who are elected in office. When a choice or a decision comes across the elected representative's desk and they have to make a hard decision on what is right and what is wrong, not just for them, but for their constituents. I want someone that I can trust to make the hard calls, to make the hard choices that isn't going to be dishonest or corrupt about it. And I do not, like, with all the accusations and the weight of them and the way he responded to them, I knew that he wasn't the person that I would trust with that power. And so I would simply sit out.
Okay. The reason why I push back here is now I think we've gotten something where it's like a little bit more questionable, right? Now this is a lot more of a subjective thing. It might be based in fact, but it's now a moral judgment on facts that some might disagree with, where they might say, I don't know if this necessarily means I can't trust him, or I don't know if it necessarily means the same criteria you're getting at. And this brings me back to the whole Biden thing with the Israel stuff, right? The idea of like, we might agree on the underlying facts that Biden is bombing Gaza. The question is the morality of that. And now
Biden wasn't bombing Gaza.
Funding the bombs, right, by proxy. And you might think that's bad, right?
Funding the bombs by proxy is such a disconnected thing. Like, we give them
sure,
money.
But now you're making a moral judgment of that's too disconnected for me to care. Number one, number two, the morality of it. They don't view it as disconnected. They think Israel is funding.
Yeah, but they're wrong.
These things don't exist in a vacuum. Like, Plattner hadn't done anything. He wasn't in office. He's done nothing. He's succeeded at nothing, really. Since he got out of the military, he has no proven track record to think he would even be effective. Whereas you can weigh somebody's moral character against what they have proven to do. So it is somewhat of a balancing test. You can withstand maybe more stains on you if you have been effective and done things in the other direction, which we would say that Biden has done.
Sure. And just for clarity, Kate, because this is the first time I think we're speaking, I'm not of the opinion that Plattner was a good candidate. I didn't want him in the primary, and I was reluctantly saying I'll vote for him in the general because it was calling to the other side before the rape stuff came up, and that was like what changed my mind.
I have a lot less shade for someone who is like reluctant about it than the people who, and this is the people who I think did something immoral. The podcast,
the people who like downplayed it, like the people I know exactly what you're talking about. The people like I remember that Policy of America from like, was it John who was like, yeah, oh look, we're right about like boasting about Plattner stuff, right? It was just like you should be weird. I think I had a friend in Maine. I have a really good friend in Maine who I talked to a lot about politics, and my whole thing with him was like we would talk a lot about this, and we were like, man, it kind of sucks because we kind of hate both candidates, but like Plattner's something worse. And when Plattner got elected, we're like wary of him, but like he's the best option, I guess. But our whole thing is we don't trust him, and we think that like this is probably not a smart person to have in office. And I do agree with that criteria. I guess my point is I still stand by my thing to support him up until now, just because I think now the odds have been affected so much by this, and there's a moral dilemma as well, which leads to total clarity. I don't think there's any argument for keeping him in the race. I do, however, think that there is value to being able to say like, what? Well,
let me ask you this directly,
just so we can differentiate. Wait, 1 second. Just so we can differentiate ourselves from the other thing. I think I'm going to bow because I see you have a lot of callers that probably have a lot more disagreements.
One more question though before you run.
Yeah, just to finish. I'm just saying that I think you need to figure out how to make this a little bit more concrete, because it does feel like now your judgment, at least back then, was still a subjective
the
judgment.
First argument I have to make, and the first argument I have to convince people of, that there has to be a red line in general.
Sure.
That's what we're doing.
And what's the question you had for me?
We can have that. We can have the extra stuff, and we can build upon that foundation once we establish that foundation. But the question I have for you is, say Plattner does not drop out, which is a possibility, that he goes past the deadline and he says, whoops, I guess you're stuck with me. Are you still going to vote for him if you're in Maine?
Would I still vote for him if I'm in Maine?
Mm-hmm.
That's a tough one. My answer is leaning towards probably yes. I'd bite the bullet and say, like, at that point, there's no chance of getting him out. He's a Democratic candidate. My answer is, I guess, yes, that like at that point it's just better than Collins. My other answer is, though, I think the entire Democratic establishment should make clear that they don't support him. As a voter, I think endorsements are different than voting.
It
I think
is.
I'd probably vote for him, but I wouldn't. I would advocate for Democrats to distance themselves
Fair
from him
enough.
as much as possible.
Well, thank you for calling in, buddy. I'll talk to you later.
Peace
okay?
out, buddy.
So
I will say if he stayed in, that would just be like such another mark on his character, like against his
yes,
character. That would just be like to see everything and to know how he like he'd be ruining it for the entire party for his own
Yes.
desire to get
Yes.
proximate to power and
It would be the
status,
worst
and
time
that
ever.
would just be absolutely disqualifying.
and to the people in my chat, like Polygraph or No Name, he has not officially dropped out. I want to make that clear. As of now, he has not officially filed to drop out. You can't. Dropping out isn't just saying or making a message that you're dropping out. You have to officially file with the party that you are withdrawing from the race. It's a legal thing that you have to do. And if you do not do it, you cannot be replaced on the ballot or by the party. So he has until Monday at 5 p.m. Eastern to do that. As of now, he has not done that. He is saying, and there's some reporting, that he's going to wait till the last minute to do it. And look, at this point, I'll believe it when I see it. So the idea that he's dropped out, he hasn't. And I want to make that very clear. Okay, let's bring in the next caller. I'll try to get you guys in order, but who knows? Hello, you're live.
Oh, it's me. Hey, what's up?
You were here earlier, and then you left, and now you're back. So,
I was on break at work and I needed to go back and do a couple things and then I hop back in. But
Okay. What's up?
yeah, I guess just first I want to say real quick, and I was just making this argument in the backstage too. I really hate moral arguments. It just generally. Um because like if you have to choose between a moral argument and a like ethical argument, I feel like both of these can be manipulated in a lot of like really kind of absurd ways. But I think morality probably has more of a subjective kind of lean to it. You couldn't create a perfect ethical system either. The thing that I really wanted to kind of contest you on, though, that being said, is like when we talk about blue no matter who, I think what a lot of people are making, like Hutch, and well, I don't want to like throw Hutch under the bus if I misrepresent him here, but like I think what we're doing is we're looking at the lesser of two evils argument in kind of like full swing. You were kind of saying earlier that like people overlooked Platner and all of these flaws that he supposedly has, or like we weren't seeing him, or whatever. Not to again like misrepresent your views, but I'm just trying to move past him. But I don't actually know if that's really the case. I think a lot of people were pretty aware of like the flaws and the red flags and these things, and so I think a lot of people were even kind of hedging on that.
So do you
But at the
think
end
Kyle Kalinske, when he said he would vote for Platner even if he was sexting with his mother, was he overlooking or downplaying it?
I don't know about Kyle Kalinske, but I also don't give a like Kyle Kalinske is on a whole other. I don't know.
Well,
if
my
Kyle
point
Kal-
here
Sure.
is that you're correct. And as I talked to Twink Twink earlier,
Yeah.
there are levels to this and there are layers to this. I have a whole lot more shade for the Kyle Kalinskes of the world than I do the Hutches of the world, right?
Yeah,
Who
same. Yeah.
acknowledged the issues and was like, I don't know about this, boys, but he did it anyway. That's a different thing than the Pod Save America bros who purposely helped Graham Platner cover these things up or to downplay these things. These are different. These are not the same. And I want to make that very, very clear. So when I'm talking about the people who like are just I guess the Hutches of the world, my advocacy for them is like, hey, you should weigh the morality higher than you did because your failure to do so led you to supporting someone that is, well, that's a credibly accused rapist. And I think that we want to avoid doing that in the future. So we should put more weight on the morality, because my problem in general is that throughout the years, because of this lesser evil style of politics, right? That it has led us to a place where we have more evil candidates than we did before.
Well, hold on, but that's kind of. I feel like that's a little bit retrospective in nature. At the
Yes, but I
time,
can use patterns of behavior before or retrospective things to make future decisions, and we should. We should use our hindsight to reevaluate and then change how we evaluate things so that it does not repeat in the future. That is a
sure,
good
but
thing to do.
when we do retrospectives, we have to go based off the information and knowledge that we had at the time. We can't go based off of what we have
Yes,
now.
and then we have to, if we look at it and we say, hey, we got this wrong, we need to say, why did we get this wrong? And then
Sure, but
change it.
my contention then would be, what other alternatives did we have? Like, I agree, if we could have gotten Graham to drop out earlier, that would have been the ideal situation. But Collins was already out of the race. When did Collins drop out? Was it like April or May? She's been out for a while now, right?
You mean Mills?
Janet Mills.
Or yeah, Mills. Sorry, not
Yeah,
Collins. Yeah, sorry.
She suspended her campaign in May, maybe late April.
Yeah. So she had been out for a while. There was like we didn't have really any other option or any
Yes, we
other.
did. Hold on. Yes, we did. I called it out at
Let
the
me change.
time.
Hold on. Let me change option. Let me change option to
Oh.
candidate. We didn't have any other. We didn't have anybody else contesting his race at the time.
Yes, he was anointed and he was seen as the chosen one. I think that we should have been, for a lot longer than people were, urging him, pressuring him to drop out.
I agree with you, but I think what I don't even know if you'll disagree with this. I think the issue was that we got so tunnel visioned on, we have to get the Senate, we have to get the Senate, which is still true. We do have to get the Senate, because far more damage will be done if we don't get the Senate than.
It is, yes, it is a better thing for Democrats to hold the Senate than not hold the Senate. I agree with that. Yes.
Yeah.
But it can't be at all costs, right? Because it's not just about this Senate, it's about future Senates. It's about future elections that happen, not just this one. And that's what I'm advocating, that people change the way that they make decisions, not to just look at what's right in front of their face, but to also look at the longer game, okay? And recognize that sometimes you got to sacrifice a pawn in order to win.
So I guess one of the questions I want to ask you then is,
Go ahead.
how do we win the game when it's rigged super hard for one side?
You play just better than you have been, because you say it's super rigged on one side, and I don't necessarily even disagree with you, but we've won the Senate before. In fact, during Obama's first term, we had 60 seats. So the idea that we have to do these things in order to win the Senate, I reject that notion. I think that's what people say so that we will overlook the bad candidates that they're pushing. And I think it's a strategy that is being pushed, especially by the DSA types in the far left, and trying to hold this as like a sword against us, saying you have to support us, because if you don't, you can't win. And I reject that. I reject that notion.
I don't entirely disagree with. Well, sorry, let me actually rephrase that. I agree with most of what you said there. I do think that the DSA is also playing this really fucking stupid game with us right now, and it sucks too, because what they're going to do now is so easy to predict. They've already started to do this. They're going to try to start to say that Plattner was actually the Democratic liberal
Yeah, it's
candidate.
Chuck Schumer's fault. They're already saying this.
Yeah, and then for
it's
every
insane. It's insane. Yeah. Anyway, sorry, I'm interrupting. Go ahead.
No, you're fine. For every candidate that they don't get, or like, this was also my fear with a lot of the, not to switch gears too much, but with like all the House reps that won in fucking New York, and everybody was just like, yeah, hooray. It's like, well, if all of them are going for like the most maximalist extremist legislation, and they're not going to settle for anything less, if legislation doesn't get passed as a result of that, then like whatever way, like whichever side that falls on, whether it like gets passed and it's way too extreme or it doesn't get passed, like the DSA and the commie types are always going to be able to spin that to blame the liberals somehow because either we
Yeah,
weren't
yeah.
with them enough or whatever.
That is a
Um,
problem, and we got to change our messaging. We got to figure out a way to nip that in the bud. But that's a messaging thing, right? So
Yeah, when it comes to morality though, just to kind of I want to jump back on track a little
quickly,
bit.
because we do have a bit of a line, and we're going all over the place, right? So morality, go ahead, give us your morality take and why morality should not matter.
Yeah, so I do just still agree with like the Hutch types in general. I think if the political landscape was currently different, such that we didn't have to go to such like extreme measures or just like again, I wish that there was a different alternative to Plattner. And I know you're gonna say maybe that there was or whatever, but like the fact of the matter was like he had all of the support. We didn't have another candidate lined up. We probably selected as Democrats like a really bad candidate from the jump. We shouldn't have probably thrown Mills in. And like Hutch said once before, if you had to choose between like 100% Hitler and 99% Hitler, like 99% Hitler is the better option. Um, I want to defeat the Republicans no matter what. If that has to mean that we have to like temporarily set aside some of our values or virtues in order to do that, I think that might just be a compromise that we have to make, especially when it comes to something as important as the Senate.
So
You're probably going to disagree with that, but
I
that's
am.
kind of where I am.
So would you agree with Hutch that if it was Epstein versus Trump, you'd vote Epstein? Like Epstein was a Democrat. Epstein on the
Epstein
Democratic
seems more
ticket?
liberal than Trump. Well, I mean, like, if we're looking at the differences between
Because
these two
that's what
people,
Hutch has said. Like he'd vote Epstein.
yeah. Well,
if he was a
what I'm saying
Democrat.
is like,
So I'm just
Trump has
curious if
been-
you have that same thing, because you said you tended to agree with the Hutch types, and I'm just
yeah,
wondering.
I'll own that. Yeah, probably.
Yeah, I won't. Like this is a difference between us. Like I think
If
that would
you
be
would vote
such
for
a.
Trump over Epstein.
I wouldn't vote.
Well, okay, yeah, if that's an option, but gun to your head, you have to pick one.
Then yes, I vote Trump over Epstein. Yes.
Even though Trump is probably
Yeah,
like,
Trump is horrific in a lot of
Trump
ways.
has probably also
But I
sexually
know
assaulted people,
for
right?
a fact that I have suspicions about Trump. I know for a fact about Epstein.
Can I posit one more question to you real quick?
Quickly, yes.
Okay, this is going to sound really contentious, so I'm going to apologize in advance. Just imagine me giving like 20 qualifiers before I ask this. But do you think something like rape is the worst outcome in the world, or do you think that there are
No,
things worse than rape?
I think you can have worse things than rape. Yes.
Okay. I mean, you can probably already
But
predict
rape
the
is,
rest of my argument,
like,
so I won't waste
pretty
your time.
fucking
I
bad.
agree, rape is really
Like,
bad, but I don't
it's
think
bad.
it's like, I don't think it's like, it's when I think about all the damage that Trump has done, not only just to our institutions, but USAID and some of these other things, where like people will die as a result of this. Like I'm not trying to give a hand wave or a pass to something like rape, but I just think that there are worse things in the world that can result or that can happen as a result of some of these changes that the Trump and his admin have made. So
Okay.
that'd be my argument.
Fair enough. Well, thank you for calling in, man.
Yeah, thank you.
Don't know about this, Kay. If you're at the point where you're saying I'm going to vote for Epstein, I think you should. I think you should reflect.
Reevaluate.
Reflect.
And
what
what
has
is the
led
cost-
you to this place?
Yeah.
What
And
has
what is the
brought
cost-
you to this thing?
Yeah. And I wonder what's the cost to
hello.
people when the party discovers that there's like no meaningful quality control or moral standard.
Well, it's going to lead to horrible
Yes.
choices in the future, because it's a
Yes.
steady erosion of the barriers we had in place to prevent bad actors from getting into power. And these barriers need to be strengthened, not further eroded in the with the war cry of like, we have to do this, we have no other choice. I'm here to argue we have another choice. There are other choices that you can make. You can, in fact, choose not to vote for Epstein. Okay? That is a choice that you can make. Go ahead, Mitty. Hi.
Hi. I was going to respond to something that Stormwolf was saying, and then got caught up in a conversation in the backstage. But I'll just say the difference, you could say, like, I think the red line between some, and maybe you guys went over this when I wasn't listening, I think there's a difference between like someone does something of their own character unprompted, right? Versus there is a situation that this person is approaching that has like only so many options, right?
Well, yes,
And there are,
obviously.
and like quote unquote, like, and there is a fact of the matter, and there is like a, like, just simply saying the adjective of what's happening and then comparing them on a red line when like Plattner's allegations were of his character
Yes.
unprompted by anything.
There,
And then what
yes,
was it?
and to back you up, there is a cost, and you may not like it, but there is a cost to the United States if we decide to not support Israel anymore. That we do get things from them. We get chips, like they're the kind that are manufactured in Taiwan. The second like biggest importer of those is Israel for us, right? We lose access to those. We lose access to a lot of the intel that they have in the region. We lose access to a lot of just so much, right?
Yeah.
The thing that
and I would say
Plattner
go
lost
ahead.
would lose if he didn't rape that woman is nothing. There is no cost. I guess he doesn't get his dick wet.
And I would also say, like, we can look at this in hindsight and say that it was naive. We can say that he was wrong. Like, but there's a difference between being wrong and then incidentally doing something where it's like, hey, if we believe that like Israel will listen to us, if we believe that maintaining this partnership and like ripping everything from them is not going to really help anything, and that if you're in that position, and like, I'm not saying that, I'm not trying to ordain the decision as the correct one. It's just when I hear like, well, you know, SA is one thing, but then genocide, like funding atrocities, is not. And it's like, well, one of those things is a boulder that's already rolling down the hill, and the other is one that you kick down the hill of your own volition as a reflection of like your own character. I don't know. I was saying in the chat though that I think I don't know if I buy the idea that we can like color like what we're doing is categorically different than what the right is doing. I do think it just comes down to the fact of the matter that like we have a priority of things that we think are essential for like human thriving, and one of those things is our democracy. And like we are just making the like, I think that we're making a more honest and upright and I think integrous and committed and like less rigid attempt to make that compromise accurately. But I don't think there's anything to be gained from like acting like we're not making that compromise, other than opening us up to attack of like, well, but you compromised here and you're acting like Republicans shouldn't compromise. Like if the facts of the matter were true, like around the Republican establishment and Antifa, and they were coming to make you trans and steal your genitalia, and they were gonna teach, like if that was all true and everything was presented accurately, like yeah, it would make sense. It would be consequential and probably the moral decision to like vote for a Trump, right? It just does come down to the fact
But
of
it's
the matter.
yeah,
I
it
don't
is.
think
It's a fact of the matter thing. And again, like my concern here, and the reason I think we need to have these discussions is I heard Emma Vigeland. I was watching Hutch earlier, and I heard Emma Vigeland say that she something to the effect of here. Let me get it up. Something to the effect of, I had the quote here. Give me a second. I tweet too much. Oh, yes. I'm wary of over-focusing on character over someone's platform. And I think that like heuristic that people are using, or that kind of methodology that they're using, has led us to a place where we're supporting and making endorsements for people who turn out to be rapists. And that needs to stop and end. And we need a better way of doing it.
Yeah,
that's it.
I like I agree. I think that like I don't think the DSA candidates in New York are going to do anything that's like particularly crazy. I think they're just going to have their seats. They're probably going to cooperate with most important votes, and like that's that. But it's like there's just this feedback loop of like, is like the thing, is their rhetoric like more harm than what that seat could be? Probably, but I don't know. I think that these are often very boring pragmatic discussions about what we think. Do we think the media is
Wow,
infinitely
did you
powerful?
just say
Do we
my
think-
discussions are boring? My God.
I think it.
My God.
I think we try and categorize things as like essentially different in kind, and I just don't think they are. I think that it's usually always a
You
pragmatic
got anything for this guy,
conversation.
Kay, before we let him go?
I'm good. I'm trying to
Yeah.
troubleshoot because I lost you in
I'm
Discord.
sorry,
so-
Wick. I didn't mean to call you boring. You know I care about you.
You're fine. I love you too. Bye-bye. Yeah, I don't like. Are these conversations boring? I don't know. I find them important. I think it matters. Is it boring? Maybe. Look, if I was doing a drama stream right now about like, oh, here we're gonna throw counterpoints under the bus, we're gonna expose all the crazy things that counterpoints did. That's fun. But which is more important right now? I think that this discussion is a little more important right now, even though I do think it matters what counterpoints did and how he acted. I do think that this is just an important discussion. I don't know. Let's bring on the next caller. Hello.
Fuck. Hey, Wick.
Hi.
God damn it. You need to. Can you make it so your stream is playing in the back room so people don't get into these huge debates and then get pulled up randomly?
What are you debating in the back room? Is it interesting? I'll bring it up and you guys can debate it for my
It's
pleasure.
it's the thing. I haven't been listening to your stream, but it's the first thing I super chatted at you. Like, I don't think just because like somebody is running as a Democrat, we should like put them in the vote blue category.
I agree. Yes. No, you're not wrong. I think that there are one of the problems that we're having, and it's a separate problem than the one we're talking about today, but it kind of is related a little bit, that there are a lot of people who are not Democrats who are trying to get the Democrat nomination, and they're skinwalking us. And it's a purposeful strategy by certain groups who want to hollow us out, like MAGA did with the Republicans, and skinwalk us. Polygraph, in my chat, he's one of those people who would vote for Epstein, right? Who would vote for child rapists if it meant getting power. I think that, like...
Well, but what are Epstein's policies?
I don't
'Cause I'm
care!
talking about
I don't give
I'm talking
a
about Graham
shit!
Plattner's policies, though.
Okay,
His
we're
policies come out
looking
from
at...
Democrats.
Okay, hold on, motherfucker. Like... It's like, I saw this story today, okay? Let me see if I can bring it up. Here it is. Okay, I'll bring it up on stream.
Oh, I don't want to elect rapists. Just getting it out of the way.
I
All right,
get
continue.
it. I get it. Okay. So, investigators say a Fort Wayne man cut off his penis, lit it on fire, and then used it to set his mom's garage on fire. Christopher Peden is charged with 1 count of arson. He was arrested last week. His bond was set at $10,000. He has since posted that bond. Here's this lovely gentleman. Okay. I'm gonna be real with you. I don't give a shit what his stance on Medicare for all or Israel is. That is not something that I care at all about. He cut off his
Is this
penis.
guy in jail or in a mental place? Like, I feel like that's where he needs to be.
Doesn't matter either. He doesn't get my vote, right? Like if he was
Sure.
running for office or if we're looking to have him as a candidate, I'm not. My question isn't, well, what is his policy on Medicare for all? What is his stance on AIPAC? I am not going to even ask those questions. I don't care. He has crossed a line in behavior that I don't think his policy positions matter anymore.
You know how like when people choose like the most extreme thing to point to, I feel like you're kind of doing that right now. Like obviously,
Okay,
this
but
guy
you
has crossed the
understand.
line from should be able to vote, in my opinion.
Okay, Molotov cocktails. I get it. I understand. It's funny. But the reason we use these extreme examples is to show you that there is a line. There is a line, and you agree that there is a line. And so many people pretend there's not. And we need to stop. We need to stop that. Okay? We need to stop pretending there is no line, that no matter what they were doing, that we would support them because they're not the other side. We need to stop. It's destroying us. It's leading us to elect men who rape women.
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
All right. Yeah, fair enough. I in the future, like, I don't want, I want to fight against labeling like these DSA people as blue.
No,
That's what I want.
fair. That's a good argument to have, and that's a good fight to have. We shouldn't. Like, they are not blue. I agree. They're brown.
All right.
Or red, I should say. They're red. Fascists are brown. These guys are red. Okay. Anything else?
All right. No, I'm good. Godspeed.
See you later. How you feeling, Kay? You doing okay?
I'm good. I'm good.
You got
I'm
us
good.
back.
How you feeling?
I'm okay. It's just I get my blood pressure up on these things, right? So it makes me wick out a little bit.
Yeah, I definitely don't think that the DSA should be considered. But maybe some of them, but generally, no.
Generally, no. What's up?
Heyo.
Hi.
Oh.
Hello. I wanted to specifically come in and talk about moral character and just kind of specifically about some of the stuff that I saw after Graham Plattner that I just really wanted to make clear is like not okay.
Go ahead.
So basically, in case you didn't see, there was a lot of, I feel like, decently prominent leftists who, after some of the sexual assault allegations came out, not of the necessarily like most immediate woman, but the one before that that had some like Republican affiliation. A lot
the
of them.
domestic violence one, the one who accused him of twisting her arm, locking her in a room, and keeping her there for a while.
Yeah. That I feel like, so I want to make it clear for me, because I definitely threw some support behind Graham Plattner in the past. And I want to make it like extremely clear. I stand by the fact that I believe in restorative justice and giving people a second chance of demonstrating who they are. However, I 100% think that there's a huge difference between like red flag after red flag after red flag and just kind of blatantly ignoring, or like I said, blatant victim blaming, and just believing that some people can change. And I think that kind of needs to be a little bit separated, because I think that you're fully right on calling out any and every leftist who engaged in victim blaming. I just don't want the ideology of restorative justice to kind of be dragged down with it.
Look, I am all for repentance, right? A restorative justice, as you said, where people can change and people can have a journey where they make up for their past transgressions, etc., and they become different people. Yes, I believe in that. The place to do that is not the Senate.
Yeah, so do you believe, just to make sure I understand this,
Mm-hmm.
do you believe, or what specifically for you was like the deal breaker when it came to Graham Plattner?
When he lied about his Nazi tattoo. So it's not even the Nazi tattoo. When he lied about it. And I was like, oh, this motherfucker cannot be trusted. And then when further accusations came out, including the New York Times stuff, I was like, okay, this is just a huge pattern of behavior. This man cannot be anywhere near a lever of power. I cannot trust this man whatsoever. I think he should drop out.
Fair. Yeah, the whole I'm a battle historian, but I did not know what a Nazi tattoo was. I will admit, out of all of my flaws, that should have been the greatest red flag.
Well, it was just like, oh, this man is just seriously willing to just lie to my face, and not even a well-placed lie, not even a believable lie, right? He just straight up just was like, nuh-uh. When every bit of evidence pointed to like, no, you knew what it was. Well, you had to have known what it was. Someone in the 20 years you had this on your body should have told you what it was. And you have reports of people that came out saying that they did tell you what it was, right? And so with all of this, and you continuing to deny in a way that I just did not find believable whatsoever, I was like, okay, man, this we can't let people like this in the White House, like in the Senate, like one of a group of 100 people in a nation of 350 million. No, do not.
Okay. And then my second piece, because I know I don't got long, is how do we hold the more, I guess, like established Dems who are in power accountable? Because again, I'm all for Graham Plattner getting out of the race, all that crazy stuff, and people being held accountable. But I also feel like when we have Democrats who are currently in power kind of do some messed up stuff, I don't know how we can collectively hold them accountable, or how
Well,
people who, yeah,
well, it really depends on what they do. If we're talking about someone like who's that guy that we actually ousted from the Senate? Or
Eric
maybe it was
Swalwell.
Congress. No, he was running for it.
Oh, the Jersey guy.
He might, yeah, it might was I forget his name. Super corrupt guy, but we
Gold
held him to
bars from
account.
Egypt guy.
We held him to account. We had trial, like an ethics trial, and I think we did push him out, actually. That's one way to do it. Another way is primaries, right? Primary the fucker. Fetterman, for example, is probably going to get primaried. That's how we hold them to account.
Okay, that's fair.
It is a call-in show,
Got it.
Pondering Politics. Are you calling in? Sorry, anyway, but yeah, so yeah, that's my thought. What else you got for me, Mr. Something Evil?
No, those were the main two things.
Okay.
I'm trying to, like, I guess my main thing is that I'm trying to obviously like learn from this and reflect upon this. So I'm not trying to do too much accusing, but I am trying to like see other people's perspectives. So I appreciate it, Wick.
No, of course. Thanks for calling in, buddy.
All right. But
Bye. But yeah, like holding the term holding people accountable is too broad, I think. We need better terminology. Like holding accountable for what and how. Holding accountable them for bad political votes that we don't like them taking. That's a different question than credible accusations of rape, right? These are not the same, and I think we need different mechanisms for these things. And we need to stop like conflating things as well, right? If I don't like someone's voting record, like Fetterman's, right? I don't like that he voted for the Lakeisha James or Lakeisha Riley Act or whatever that is. I don't like that act, right? But that's not the same as what Graham Plattner is accused of. It's just not.
And holding people accountable, like you can want them to hold themselves to account, but you can't really, that's not like something really enforceable. So if what you mean by accountable is like you want a mechanism by which to punish them or to bop them or to let them know that you no longer support them, like those are all possibilities. But like accountability is like a really vague term that needs to be like tailored to what like what you specifically want to impress upon that person.
Yeah, and what you want to do, right? Like, anyway, let's bring in the next caller. Hello, you're live.
Oh, man. Hello. Let me get my notes up real quick because I've been listening to the convo on and off. So I'm trying to think. So my approach, and I'm sure you've heard this plenty of times, is if you're in Maine or any state and your choice is between the worst Democrat and the best Republican in the general election, not talking about the primary stuff, who do you vote for in that election?
Well, as I think that Plattner has showed us, it's sometimes don't vote. The answer is sometimes don't vote. I do think that Plattner probably qualifies at this point as the worst Democrat. Would you disagree?
I can't think of any Democrats that are running that are worse than him.
Me neither. Me neither. Okay. So given that we don't have to have like a hypothetical here, we could just point to the worst Democrat. there are no circumstances, zero realistic circumstances where I vote for that man or advocate that other people do.
So
So
if you,
no,
oh,
that is
sorry.
just wrong. That is just a wrong statement. Sometimes you just don't vote, right?
So if it was Plattner that was our last vote to have the Senate, you would not vote for Plattner.
Would you?
I would.
Like, say he stays in the race. Say the
Mhm.
deadline passes, and now he is unfortunately the nominee.
Mhm.
And he's versus Collins. You still aren't voting for the guy?
I will still vote for Plattner if
You'd
I'm in
still
Maine,
vote for the
because
Plattner in Maine.
my reasoning is the Democratic Party as an institution is orders of magnitude more moral than the Republican Party, which is a cult around Donald Trump. And we've had candidates like Fetterman, or for the left wing people, who's that guy from West Virginia that nobody liked? I wish I could remember his name. But he was like a very moderate Democrat. And I used to listen to the Majority Report a lot. They would bash on him constantly. But like those people will still vote with Dems more often than any Republican would.
Hold on. I don't know if the Majority Report specifically voted Democrat, honestly.
They kept advocating for Kamala Harris.
Well,
Even
Kyle
after,
Kalinske, I know, didn't.
yeah,
I know he's not
I know,
Majority
listen to
Report,
him.
right? I know these are different
Yeah.
things.
Emma Vigeland, Sam Cedar, I remember they would have people call in and they would be like, I understand your frustrations, but ultimately Harris is better than Trump for Gaza. But like, because that's all they talk about.
Hold on. I just want to. I'm sorry. The people in chat who are saying Manchin is worse than Plattner, your moral calculators
Wait.
are broken. I don't know what to tell you.
I know Manchin took money from oil companies, but did he rape anyone? What?
No,
Like,
not
that's
that I'm
bad.
aware of.
Yeah, no. Like, I think that's bad. Yeah, sorry, I don't want to argue with you, chat.
You guys are saying Manchin obviously is the worst Democrat, and if you have to, no, call in, Remy. Okay, all you people who are saying Manchin's the worst Democrat, call in, okay, and I'll yell at you. I don't. The caller isn't saying that, so I shouldn't. I'm getting distracted. But go on with your.
Also, if you can do terrible things to people who are in close proximity to you, do you not think that like you could make terrible decisions for people that are further away from you in time when you have that opportunity? Like,
yeah, I think that the Senate Democrats are held back, are held in check by their own party. Someone brought up Nancy Pelosi earlier, and I know she's the House, but like she was really good. I remember believing I had a lot of policy disagreements with her. I don't actually know if I did or not, but she, because again, I come from a more left wing background. Like, while I would disagree with her policies, her ability to keep the House Democrats in check and to keep the votes whipped what was exceptionally good, and she was a really good leader. So I think with good leadership, and maybe that's Chuck Schumer, maybe that isn't, like, I don't know how much I genuinely disagree with him, but if he can get Fetterman to vote with them, I think he could get Plattner to vote with him. And if Plattner continues to be inappropriate, and honestly, if he continues drinking, then there are punishments that the Senate can inflict upon them.
Do you think it makes it hard? If let's say he stays in, okay, and let's say he even wins, he beats Collins, even with all of this, right? And he is in the Senate. Do you think that it makes it harder or easier or has no effect on races for Democrats against Republicans in other states for the people who worked with Plattner on various pieces of legislation?
I think no matter what, there will always be a boogeyman the Republicans will pull out, because before Plattner was Mondani, after Plattner it was the DSA candidates. There will be someone that Republicans will try to fearmonger both their base and the center left people.
Disagree with that, but I'm telling you that the effectiveness of the Republican strategy is at least in part made more effective by putting Plattner as a boogeyman than some no-name Twitter poster guy, right?
I mean, for
Like
whatever,
that has more salience to the amount of the voting electorate who is malleable, who may be swayed or have their mind change. Like the fact that they can point to a sitting senator who is credibly accused of rape that Democrats work with and do legislation with is more salient than if the only person they could point to is someone we kicked out of the party.
I think that for any of the people that are, moved by that, could be moved by that, the Democrat response would be to just hold up Trump's Twitter account and see what he said in the last 5 minutes.
Yeah, but then they'll say,
because
"Well, who cares what
even
you say about
even
Trump?
if-
You're okay with working with rapists too."
I mean, we will work.
That would
with
that
them,
would be
but
the
we
counter, and
have
it would
other corruption issues,
take
correct?
that weapon that we have away entirely. It would just remove it. Like I couldn't sit here and argue seriously that the Democrats are fundamentally better on this question than Trump is under those conditions. I just couldn't. It would be a lie because we'd be the same.
But there has been this whole conversation is evidence that we are better. Because we.
Well,
the
no, I'm
Democratic
talking in
institution-
the scenario. Look, I want to be clear. I'm talking in the hypothetical scenario where he doesn't drop out, people work with him, he gets elected, and we go with him, right?
Yeah, no, I still think it would
I think
apply
that he's we're going to force him out. Hopefully, cross our fingers. And even if we don't, I think what's going to happen, what actually is going to happen, is everyone will continue to withdraw support. He will get no funding. He will get no money, and he will lose to Collins by double digits. That's what I think will happen, and that would be the outcome than him winning. That would be better for us than him winning.
I would say that it is still better to have control over the Senate, even if it's with a deplorable man, because
even if we lose control in 2028 because of that,
I don't know if we would lose control in 2028.
I think that there is a much
Are
higher
people
likelihood that we would than if what I said happened.
Are people still bringing up Hunter Biden, or has he gotten super popular amongst the Democrats?
They bring up Hunter Biden on occasion.
But that was supposed to be Biden.
Yeah, but Hunter Biden
pardoning
didn't
him
rape
was-
anyone.
We were going, huh?
Like these are different. Hunter Biden didn't rape
What
anyone.
I'm saying is that there's going to be some narrative and some boogeyman. I don't think it's good that Plattner will run, but I think that it is still preferable that Democrats control as much power in the government so that we can enact as
Yes,
much justice
in a
as
vacuum,
possible,
that is
even
true.
if it's with a morally abhorrent person.
But the question is, will we be able to retain control consistently for multiple cycles? Or, well, let me just ask you this question. If I framed it this way, you can win now, but you will lose the next 10 cycles. Would you choose winning now? Or you could lose now and win the next 9.
So, if I can attack the premise of your question,
Well, can I get an
has
answer
not
first? Then you
the-
can. Can I get an answer first? Then you
answer
can.
first. I would prefer to win now and then, or lose now and then win
Yeah,
9 times
Yeah,
afterwards.
and just to be clear, that's what I'm arguing. I think would happen.
But what my question is that have we ever had a Democrat sustainable control for the last 40, 50 years? It
We
seems
had
like
60
we're
seats
constantly
under
switching
Obama.
between, huh?
We had 60 seats under Obama.
And then Trump became president, and they took the
Yeah,
House and the
that
Senate, and then
happens,
we won the
unfortunately.
midterms, and then we took the House and the Senate, and then Trump took the House and the Senate. Like there is always a shift of dissatisfaction, or there seems to be a very ongoing dissatisfaction with the establishment and people wanting new things and wanting new messages,
Yes,
and
but I
you
think
know,
we can.
being
I think we
promised
can
the
stop that
the
cycle.
cake and eat it.
Yeah, I think we can stop that cycle. I don't think that's an inevitable cycle. I think that
With
we
one
can
more
stop
election?
that cycle.
What would be different? Supposing we drop Plattner and we win, what's different with this cycle compared to all the other
Well, we'd
cycles?
have to do much more work than that. The difference is MAGA and their entire, they have demonstrated an inability to govern, which is fundamentally different than Trump's first term. That's fundamentally different than Bush. That's fundamentally different than Bush Sr. That's fundamentally different than Reagan, right? You would agree with me?
I think they demonstrated that on January 6, 2021. Yes.
Okay, no, that was an incident. I'm talking about governing. I'm talking about being in power, wielding power, and being able to pass laws and get the government functioning, get the economy rolling, dealing with foreign policy. I agree it should have been disqualifying for all of them that they were willing to do January 6th, but I'm pointing to something different here. I'm pointing to the general electorate, the general public is seeing in a way that they have not before that MAGA is unable to govern.
I mean, I don't think the general public looks at it that way. I
Well,
think that
the
they
polling
believe
that
the
we're
stories that are
seeing,
weaved for them.
Sure. Well, the evidence that I have that they are seeing it that way is poll after poll after poll. Even on immigration, Trump is underwater in support. He is losing support on every single metric, and his approval rating is lowest it's ever been. And Trump won, and now, and I think that we are seeing this across the board, and we have an opportunity in order to stop the cycle that we've been seeing. Unfortunately, I think that if we continue to support and elect Plattner, that the cycle will continue even more.
I think that because I remember after January 6th, and I'm going to go back to that.
Sure.
What I remember is that like there were like Ben Shapiro came out against Trump and denounced the riot or the insurrection. Fox News was denouncing it, and then over time, people's memories began to fog about it. There was sweeping done by the right wing media system, and now it's a contested issue. It's like, well, was there really a riot? What wasn't it Antifa and whatnot? Like, I think that if an incident like attempting to overthrow the certification of an election can be muddled and forgotten, then I think one senator, as deplorable as he is, can also be muddled and forgotten.
That's a different argument, and we can go down that road if you like. I guess my argument against that would be perhaps it could. It would take a while to do so. I don't know if it's going to happen. There's a risk there. And I guess my most important and the most salient argument I have against it is I don't think it should. I don't think we should cover this up.
Are we covering up? I think that
No,
the
well,
left,
you just
super left people,
went down and saying it could be covered up.
well, I said,
And that's what I'm pushing back against. Like, I don't think it should.
I mean, can I be honest? Like, because I'm not ride or die for Plattner.
You can
I'm
be
worried
honest.
that if
Like,
Plattner did
have you
get-
not been honest up until now? Of course you can be honest. Yeah, please be honest.
I think that's code for I'm about to cell phone. If Plattner did get elected and if he continues drinking, because from all the stories I've seen, I think drinking is a big link to his problem. There would probably be an incident where he would be kicked out or censured from the Senate. And I think we have opportunities after he's elected to continue to show that we are against. Because I remember there. I'm so bad with names. I'm so sorry. But like we have demonstrated like senators who were well respected even after it was revealed that there were photos of them groping unconscious women.
Al Franken.
They were kicked out of the party. Yes, thank you. And I think that if Plattner, after the not second, but like the 37th chance he's been given to improve himself, if he fails after being elected, then he can be kicked out, and we can say on our face like, we are not this party.
Yeah.
Maine chose this person as their Democratic representative. We gave him a chance. He continued to fumble. And like
Yeah,
Al
I don't.
Franken before,
I don't think
if he
we should
fumbles
give him
while
a
in
chance.
power, we will kick him out again.
So two things here. First, I want to correct the record on Al Franken. Al Franken did not grope a woman, right? Like, the thing that you are referring to is he made a picture of him hover handing over, like, and this was like from several feet
Right.
away, but he made like a honk honk sign against the
Mhm.
sleeping woman's boobs, right? But it wasn't even like he didn't touch her, right? Like, it was
Right.
a crass joke, but it wasn't. We are not talking about the same things, right? We are not talking about credible accusations of rape. Okay, these are not the
Right.
same.
But
So
he was
what
still
Al
thrown out
Franken
of the
being
party,
pushed out
right?
was gross and should not have happened. We should not have done that. What we should do, however, is not give this man, Plattner, any grace, nor should we give him a chance, right? I think that the party is doing the right thing in pressure and withdrawing all endorsement, withdrawing all funding, and pressuring him out of the race. That is a good thing to do, and we should
Yep.
do it. The reason we're having this conversation today is because I want to prevent future situations where we have to do that, right? Because what Plattner should have been sunk after he lied about the Nazi tattoo. That should have been the end of it.
Yes.
He should have been sunk. Everyone should have
Mhm.
withdrawn endorsement. People should have stopped supporting him. He should not have gotten any softball interviews. We should have treated him much differently than we did, but we didn't. And we have people like Pod Save America, Jon Stewart, Mehdi Hassan, all these other people who pushed and like belittled people who were pointing out like, hey, this guy's kind of a red flag. This guy's got some real credible issues against him. Like we were belittled. Like we were mocked for bringing these things up. We were told we were stupid. We were made fun of. And that is because the people who were covering this up had a bad heuristic for making judgment calls about people's character, or they just did not care about the character. And either of those things needs to change. We need to recognize that there is a line. Okay, there is a line, and I think rape is a good example of a line that we should have. And if you missed the red flags, you should take a good hard look at yourself and figure out what it's going to take for you to make better decisions in the future. That's why we're arguing today, and that's why we're having this discussion.
A lot of these people were able to see like moral character flaws in candidates they don't like. They're very able to spot them out when it is on like across party lines or with other people in the past. Many of these people have been open to criticize moral failings or behavior. Tons of people that I don't know doesn't rise to this. They're capable of it. They just chose not to.
I think, was it not that they had a priority of like, this guy has done morally duplicitous, morally bad thing. The people that like attacked folks like you who were like, we need to drop this guy right now, who attacked and were saying you were stupid. Those people were wrong, and they need to look in the mirror, and they probably won't. But I think for people like Jon Stewart and Mehdi Hassan, they had, they did the calculation of, well, yes, he's morally abhorrent, but a Democrat in the seat ultimately is what we think is for the best. Whether or not that
Yes.
calculation comes out to be true, I think it comes down to, what we see after the election. If Plattner wins, and we
Well,
end up
to be clear,
taking the Senate.
realistically, he's probably not going to be in the race. I hope to God that he drops out by the 30th.
I hope so as well.
And if he doesn't drop out, I don't think we win that seat. I think Collins wins by landslide. I'm talking double digits.
I haven't seen too much information on the projection, but what I no, I'm not going to validate Polymarket.
Sure. I guess. Well, no. The reason the poly market odds went up for Democrats and down for Collins when they thought that Plattner was going to drop out. That's what made our odds shoot up.
Yeah.
I guess. Well, I'll ask you one final question, and then we gotta move you out.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
I got to make tacos.
Yeah, you're fine. So, say you're a powerful influencer within the Democratic ranks. You're a powerful campaign manager, and someone comes to you and gives you the information about Plattner. This is before this is before the drop. Okay, so no one else knows about this. They come to you, and they say, "Hey, I have credible evidence that Plattner raped a woman." And they provide you that evidence, and it convinces you. They say, but I don't want Collins to win. So I'm just giving it to you so you know, but I'm going to destroy the evidence after, right? Like I'm going to bury it. And you believe him. Do you keep that to yourself so that Plattner can win?
I have credible evidence that he raped someone.
And you know it's not going to come out, right? You know 100% it's not going to come out in the future. You're the only one who knows. You were told directly. You've been given credible evidence. You believe it. And you know it's not going to come out. You have the decision to either tell people that this happened or keep it secret so that Plattner wins. Which do you do?
I'm going to go with the calculus answer. Is it before or after the primary? Because if it's before the primary,
it's after the primary. That he's won the primary. It's before. It's before he has a chance to like drop out or anything. Do you do it? It's after the primary. He's won the primary. He is going to be the candidate the Democrats put up against Collins. Do you keep that information to yourself?
I think I would want to talk to the victim. Because I think if her story is going to be told to
she says I'm not going to come forward if you tell me not to come forward. I'm going to rely on your judgment here. I'll come forward if you tell me to, if you think it's the right move. But if you tell me not to, I will respect your wishes.
I probably then yeah, I'm probably going to tell the DNC leadership and, let it run. Because I still say that the Senate matters most. That having power.
So to be clear, you're going to cover it up so that he has a better chance of getting elected.
I don't believe that I have no. I believe I can talk to the Democratic leadership and let them know. Like, I think that it's not like the only thing I can do with this power is decide whether or not Plattner gets elected. There are measures that we can take as an in-group to moderate and to control it.
Okay. I don't find that answer satisfying, but I understand that's your answer. I think you're passing the buck in that case. I think you're kicking the decision to other people. I'll just tell you straight up. If it was me, I would report it. I would be like, I cannot stay silent on this. I believe this information. And yes, it's going to tank our chances. But I would not be able to look myself in the mirror. And I think that this is, again, why we need more weight to moral decision making and moral character traits within our party, because knowing that someone is willing to rape someone means I don't trust them to be making decisions that will affect millions of people, right? I don't trust their decision-making skills. They are willing to hurt others for personal gain. That's why it's bad to have a rapist in office, no matter their policies or politics.
I still think that there is power in the establishment that can be used to control him. But ultimately, Maine elected him.
Okay.
But I think the dog has the ultimate say.
Okay. I'll talk to you later, buddy.
All right. Thank you very much.
Ooh.
Sorry, Schroeder had
What
to
a-
come say
What
hello.
a pretty puppy. Hi, what's his name?
Schroeder.
Schroeder. Okay. Would
Yeah.
Schroeder cover up the rape?
Schroeder would never do such a thing.
Never do such a thing. He'd
Never.
be barking it. Yeah,
no.
it's
He'd be
just
sounding all the alarms.
yeah, it's just crazy.
Yeah.
Pondering Politics. It is a general call-in show. You can call in about whatever you like. I am just ranting about this because this is what I'm ranting about. But if you want to call in about something entirely different, you can. I don't know. Maybe look. Maybe I'm hangry here. Maybe I'm hangry. I don't know. What is this hard to understand as a concept? Like, call in about whatever you like. But if you don't know what to call in about, here's a topic that we can talk about. And people have wanted to talk about this, so here we are. Okay, let's bring in the next guy. Hello, you're live.
Hey, Wick. It's been a while.
Yeah, what's up?
All right, so I had two main questions, right? So the vote blue, no matter who moment started as a response to progressives refusing to vote for liberals, and that didn't meet their standards, correct?
I believe so.
So why does it not matter if liberals meet the standards of progressives, but it does matter when progressives don't meet the standards of liberals?
Because I think that the standards that the progressives were putting forth are spurious, and I think our standards are better. Yes. Like, my standard is don't rape. Their standard is don't vote for Israel stuff. And I think that these are not the same standards, right?
Well, the Israel thing's more recent, right? But back when the vote blue, no matter who movement started, right? The primary policies of progressives were Medicare for all, raising the minimum wage, and pushing for some version of free college. Just progressive economic standards, right?
I think that holding your red line being not supporting student debt forgiveness, I don't find that red line to be compelling, but I do find the red line of don't rape people to be compelling.
Yeah, I mean, I can agree with that. I'm also I don't necessarily think I would vote for Blattner, but we also see this with conversation coming up with more people than just Plattner. We also see it coming up with like Fetterman and stuff.
Yeah, I understand. Look, if you want to, let me put it this way: the vote blue, no matter who heuristic was never actually no matter who. Not to me, at least. Right? It was never actually no matter what. And I think we could. Again, you would never vote for Epstein, would you? Even if you ran as a Democrat?
Fuck no.
Yes, exactly. So we always knew that there were like fucking lines to this. But what has happened is it's been weaponized and they've been autistic about it, right? To be like, no, it actually means no matter who. So even if Trump ran as a Democrat, you should support Trump, right? Vote blue no matter who would encompass that as a choice. Like if Trump decided I'm going to be a Democrat now to run for a third term, like if your heuristic was if your methodology was a strict autistic version of vote blue no matter who, you would have to vote for Trump over whoever ran as the other guy. And I find that to be silly. I find that to be a silly standard if it leads to those kind of situations. And so it has to be something else. There has to be lines, right? Where we say, well, no, it's not no matter who. There are criteria that you have to, there are lines that you cannot cross. There's a threshold to this. And that's why I think that it's important to have this discussion, is because, again, if Trump was running as a Democrat, you should not vote blue no matter who.
And I would agree. I think we do need standards on like personal behavior, like the don't rape people thing, obviously. But I also think we should have standards on actual policy. Like I would say the main ones I would say aren't even necessarily the free college forgiveness thing. At least supporting a public option and supporting raising the minimum wage. These are two extremely important positions. The one, due to the fact that most people or a lot of people can't really afford to live nowadays because of inflation and the massive wealth gap, as well as the number one leading cause for bankruptcy in America is our healthcare system.
But the problem here is that we can look at policies as a more kind of like, well, this is a more straight, like a weighting thing. Like, okay, these policies are going to be pushed by one guy and they're generally better than the other person's policies, but they may not have all the policies we like. That's a different calculation. And in that calculation, morality aside, then yes, pick the guy who's going to have the 51% policies you like as opposed to the guy who has only 49% policy you like. I think there should not be a red line of you don't support this policy, right? I say that, but like if there's ever some silly, stupid policy, like we're going to allow rape for everyone, right? Like, no, okay, fair enough. But like, you know what I mean? Like there's difference between having red lines for policies and red lines for moralities. And I think that a red line for one is valid and a red line for another is less valid. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. I personally think that having a red line for both makes sense. I think we should probably have a red line for both. Like if somebody ran as a Democrat and like generally say like a progressive ran and they were like in favor of getting like the stuff that I was talking about, and then also in favor of getting like rid of a fuckload of regulations, I wouldn't vote for that person.
See, I
Especially depending on what the regulations are.
probably would. That's the difference, I guess. I don't know. Thanks for calling in, buddy. I appreciate you. I'll let you go.
See you later, buddy.
Well, look who it is. Well.
So I
Somehow-
unmute the stream. I unmute the stream to hear you answer me, and you're yelling at me for some fucking reason. I had
Because
you
I
muted while I was-
answered you before. This is like
I
the
had
third time I told you the answer.
I had you. That's why I was typing in chat. I didn't tag you. I was typing to your audience in chat because I had your stream muted because I was on the phone, so I
Okay.
couldn't hear your answer. And
Okay.
you're over here just popping off for no fucking reason. I need you. Grab a Snickers. I need you to go from here down to like right here. You can just have and listen. I'm waiting for the guy who he's a YouTube viewer of yours. He wants to yell at me about Rise of Skywalker. That's really all I'm here for. So unless you've got questions for me,
I
I'll
can't
either
hear
stay
Josiah
muted
at all.
in the back.
You can't hear Josiah at all.
No.
Hold on.
So while you figure that out, if that helps, Wick, I'll just stay here muted until this guy shows up. and
Okay,
you
who's the
can-
guy? Who do you know his name? So I can fast track him.
Young Lock Stream is what he is on Twitter.
Okay,
And
if this
I've
is
DM'd
you,
him and I've tagged him.
if this is you, now's your time to shine. Let me know.
Shiny.
Okay. Anyway, I'll throw you. I can throw you backstage, or you can put you here muted. Whatever you want to do. I can put you in the
Yeah,
vetting
you can bring
room.
other people on, and I'll just shut up until this guy shows
Okay,
up.
sure. Fair enough. Fair enough. Okay, let's see. Who else is here? Hello, you're live. Hello, you're live.
I was just listening backstage. My bad.
Okay. Damn. Okay. Does anyone actually want on my show? Is there anyone backstage who is actually wanting to be on the show today?
We're just hanging out.
We'll try Twink Twink again. Are you here to actually have a conversation on the stream, or did you want to just yap backstage?
I mean, I'm down to stay and yap about the stream, but I was definitely yapping in backstage. Do
Okay,
you want me to tell people who aren't there for backstage to move?
yes, please go do that.
Okay, I got you.
Gregio, what's up? You're muted on your end, buddy.
Hey, what's up?
Yeah. Hi.
Okay, so I wanted to talk about this, not specifically about Plattner, because I think you're correct about Plattner. I think he's a piece of shit. And I think morally, you're correct. Your world is kind of the world I would like to live in. Here's my worry. My worry is we would have a bunch of independents, and some of them would be able to kind of see what's happening. But a lot of them would be like, hey, look at all these bad people that Democrats kind of disavow. Like you brought up the Al Franken case, and like the Menendez case, and fuck him too. But
Hold on, Franken. No, we stand Franken here. Franken did nothing wrong. Menendez, fuck him. That's true.
But I'm using him as an example of someone we pushed out, even if that was wrong.
Okay.
But Republicans don't ever do this. They sweep constantly. The people like the Rob Noors, Ryan Mullally's, the Andrew Wilsons, the Talibots, they endlessly sweep. So an independent might say, look how Democrats have to like push these bad people out, and Republicans don't push anybody out. So therefore, Republicans might just be better. Do you think that might be a danger, or do you think that's overblown?
I don't know if that is a. I don't know if there is a world where independents look at one party pushing out their bad people and look at the other party not pushing out their bad people, and I don't think the independents go with the people who aren't pushing out their bad people. It's presented accurately to them. One of the problems we're having is it's not being presented accurately to them, right?
Yes,
it's
Republicans don't acknowledge that they have bad people, right?
Say one more time.
Republicans don't acknowledge that they have bad people. The most criticism they might give is, well,
they pretend they do,
but
they don't. Yes, you're correct. They pretend they do, but they in general, and I'm being very general here. Yes, Democrats have the moral high ground here. My arguments today is I want to keep that moral high ground.
Okay, I agree with you. That's my worry, is that all these right-wing sweepers are going to kind of take advantage of this because they don't have this conversation that you're having now. They don't have the introspective conversation.
Yes. I'm just curious, how would they take advantage of it? Because I could point to, like, when they say, well, Democrats will just elect anyone. I could point to this stream and other streams where no, we are policing our own. We're getting rid of the guy who's credibly accused of raping people, right? We're getting rid of that person. And they can't point to a similar situation on the right.
I know, but they would say they can't point to that because they don't nominate anyone like that, is what they would.
Then I would just point out Trump, who they not only nominated but elected. I would point out a whole host of other figures that have done really bad things. There's a guy who beat his wife, who has credible accusations right now of a spousal abuse, throwing boiling water on her.
Max Miller.
Yes, Max Miller. They're not even discussing getting rid of him.
I understand that.
So it's a very easy counter. I could just point these things out, and they just stutter, right?
I don't know how much that's resonating. Like, since Josiah is here, I've been seeing him going off on Twitter, posting the Trump was found to have raped E.G. and Carol link, and that's very convincing to me. I think it's a great argument, but I don't know if it's convincing
an auto win.
anyone.
I
on the
always
right.
win, and the other person always loses. It's the Trump card, pun intended.
Like, because they still love Trump, and even like the moderates.
Okay, Gregio,
are okay with Trump.
Gregio, we're going to bring you back, but Pondering's arch nemesis.
Dun, 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 dun.
Okay, so we're going to allow this to happen. So we're going to let you. We're going to move you back.
Have fun.
We're going to bring
Good luck
you back.
with that.
Okay. The man, the myth, the legend. How you doing, buddy?
Young Lockwalker, young Skywalker. What's up, buddy?
We have to have a serious conversation. Look, I love your politics.
I love it.
I love your
Go
analysis.
ahead. Give it.
Okay.
However, your take on the rise of Skywalker is complete and utter dog shit.
How dare you, sir? Okay, well, let's you lay out. How do you want to do this? You want me to make the case, or do you want to tell me what beef you have with my Rise of Skywalker take?
I just don't understand how a man as intelligent as you can have a take so retarded.
Okay. All right. Let me walk you through it. All right. You tell me where you disagree with this.
All right,
so
go ahead.
I think The Force Awakens is the worst of the sequels. And I mean that. I have the most contempt and most disdain for The Force Awakens. The Last Jedi, I have mixed feelings about because I like certainly the cinematography. I think that there's a visual vocabulary that Rian Johnson was going with, like the battle on Crate, when they swipe their legs through the salt and you see the red. Obviously, the duel with Snoke's Praetorian Guard, just a stunning visual there. I think it was Mark Hamill's best performance as Luke, even though I don't like what they did with Luke, but I blame The Force Awakens for that. And I like that he tried to do some things different. At the same time, the space chase shit was boring. Oh shit, what's the guy's name? Finn and Rose. That subplot
The
was
Stormwalker,
boring.
the Stormtrooper dude, Finn. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I like him, but his subplot with Rose in The Last Jedi sucked, and the space chase with Poe sucked. So the only narrative thread in The Last Jedi that was any good was Kylo, Rey, Luke, and Snoke, right? So it was basically
I don't disagree so far. Yeah.
Okay, so just setting you up, so it was very uneven. It had really good artistic ambition with the hand it was dealt, but it was uneven on delivery. Now, that leads us to The Rise of Skywalker. I remember vividly sitting in the cubicle at my lap. Where'd you go?
No,
Oh,
the different.
okay, yeah.
Kay can't hear you for whatever reason. She can hear everyone else. Do you have her blocked?
No,
She's
I don't
restarting.
think so.
She's restarting to maybe fix this. But
What's
no,
her-
she can't
what's-
hear you
what's-
at all. Like she can hear me. She can hear Young Locke here, but she can't hear you. I asked her if she had you blocked or something. No. So I don't know.
What's her? While I'm talking, I will look. I don't think I blocked anybody on Twitter, but I can
Not
double
on Twitter.
check.
It would be on Discord.
Oh,
Twitter
on
wouldn't
Discord.
matter.
Sorry, Kay.
Yeah, KAY.
All right. So
I don't
while
know.
we're talking,
I don't know if that's her
let me-
official
I
thing.
also
No, I see. I click on her profile and
while
it says
Josiah and I
ignore.
are here.
It says ignore block.
Yeah, so I don't know
report
what
user
it is.
profile. So
Like, I
yeah.
have no idea what it is. But she's trying to
I'm
fix
sorry.
it now. We're gonna.
Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry. What were you saying?
I
Young
also
Locke? You
feel like
started to say something.
Wowwick's here.
What's up?
Yeah.
You're roboting, buddy. You're
Yeah,
roboting.
you're roboting.
Yeah. The force is not with you, sir. It's
This is
been
what happens. By the way, this is a lesson to all of you. You shit talk The Rise of Skywalker at your own peril. Okay? Kay probably hates The Rise of Skywalker, and that's why she's having technical issues, and now Young Locke is too. Lesson learned. Wick, where are you on The Rise of Skywalker? Are you a Star Wars
I am
fan?
not a Star Wars guy. For a wide variety of reasons. So no, I think it's dog shit.
I'm about to boot you from your own stream. What are you
can't-
talking
you can't
about?
do that.
I'm,
It is
I'm right-clicking right
Star-
now. I'm ejecting
Star
you.
Wars was good for the first movie, but everything since then, except for Emperor Strikes Back, was good as well. So yeah, the
Empire
first
Strikes
two.
Back.
But The Last Jedi was not good. I didn't like that movie. I also didn't like any of the sequels or the prequels. I thought it was it's surviving on nostalgia and cultural inertia, and we need different stories. I think it's dog shit. That's it.
Much
Okay.
like the Democratic Party.
Say something again, because like I feel I can't. I feel
I
like
have-
you're.
Okay, thank you, Wick. I really just want to be here for the.
Is
You are
Sorry,
yeah.
I
You're,
had your stream in the
you're-
background.
Your text failing.
is
you,
it better
buddy.
or not? I just
But we have a new champion arise with the
And
Sith.
you're-
There are always
I'm
two.
gonna kill myself.
Okay.
You're
Okay.
still, you're
Yeah.
still unfortunately going robotic.
Yeah.
Young Locke.
But with the Sith,
Josiah,
there are always two, and we have
you
Stormwolf
think that
here.
Josiah, I think we're
Twink,
gonna disagree here more than court packing. Okay, we're gonna have the biggest disagreement we'll ever have here. Okay, and my camera's acting up. Okay, cool. So, why do you think The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi are better than The Rise of Skywalker? Because here's my thing: The Rise of Skywalker.
But no, I don't think they're better. I don't think they're better than The Rise of
You don't think The
Skywalker.
Rise of Skywalker is the best sequel?
I think The Rise of Skywalker is the best sequel in
So definitionally
terms of.
Sorry, I meant worse. I meant worse.
Okay, oh, okay.
Yeah. Because here's my
Yeah.
thing, right? The entire
Alright.
premise of the story, it is a masterclass in bad writing.
Go ahead.
So The Rise of Skywalker has incredibly bad cause and effect, right? You have things happening just for the sake of the plot without motivation, as story threads
Like?
aren't continued. So like you have the the knife not being set up, right? The whole idea of the knife, right? They happen to fall into the same thing. They happen
dagger,
to be in the right
yeah.
place. The dagger doesn't really make sense of why it would be there. And then like the idea of them happening to open the dagger and just see it perfectly line up is like
The
crazy.
sextant, yeah.
Yeah, Rey being a Palpatine is like crazy. Palpatine surviving, the lack of explanation is insane. The way he was able to make all of those.
We got an explanation somehow.
Yeah,
somehow,
like, this is like a
one word.
masterclass of writing, and this is someone who thinks the entire sequel trilogy is awful writing. I just think it's genuinely The Rise of Skywalker is really bad.
Let me lay out to you why I think The Rise of Skywalker is the best in terms of
and to be clear, all your
entertainment
haters are
value.
here for this Pottering Politics.
Entertainment
They have
value?
been
I would
begging.
argue The Force
hold on,
Awakens is better, by the way.
please, Twink.
Yeah.
Please, Twink, settle down. Okay. The reason why I'm bringing more people in is because the more you talk about this, the greater the hate against you becomes. And so we're just bringing it in. We're going to do it right now. We're going to do it live.
Listen.
But anyway, go ahead.
As I would add to quote the best Star Wars character, use your aggressive feelings, boy. Let the hate flow through you. Okay. So, a couple of things. The Rise of Skywalker is unironically my favorite sequel just because of sheer dumb entertainment value. There's no slow points. It's a brisk, exhilarating jaunt from start to finish. There are a lot of stupid elements, like, for example, like the Star Destroyers, needing a navigational tower to go
the
up.
lightning makes no sense. Like, how that kills him doesn't transfer. It makes no sense.
My stepfather famously said, he's like, why do they need a tower? Why don't they just roll down the window and drop a rock, and which way the rock goes, they're like, okay, we need to go the opposite way. So again, I totally grant you a lot of bullshit, right? But I find it entertaining. It's not boring. So the Last Jedi had a lot, like, again, 2 of the 3 plot lines, in my opinion, were extremely boring. The space
Canto
chase
Bight
with
and the
Poe
space chase.
and Canto Bight, yes. And I don't think that they were narratively fulfilling either. It's not just like Andor has its boring moments, but it's a slow burn with a lot of payoff.
And the boring
right?
moments are still tense because there's like emotional stakes behind it. And so slow moments aren't necessarily boring. Slow moments are boring if there's not like tension,
right?
And character stakes in there.
And the Last Jedi to me didn't have the payoff that you would expect for otherwise fairly boring scenes. So that's why that's why I don't put The Last Jedi as number 1, because when it was firing on all cylinders, there was greater artistic vision there. There was more competent artistic direction there, but it was so uneven and most of it was boring. I can't rank it as number 1. Now let me get into why I hate The Force Awakens, which is generally considered.
I'm going to disagree. Yeah.
Which is what's generally considered the best of the sequels. So my beef with The Force Awakens is it's a cowardly soft reboot. Right.
Sure.
It completely undermines everything that which came before. So what do you have? You have a new empire in the form of the First Order. No functional difference between the First Order and the Empire. You have Han on a personal level, just basically retreading his character arc, or at least where he was at the beginning of A New Hope.
One comment, I would actually disagree with that. He doesn't retread. He gets worse because Han was not he was called a smuggler. He was never actually a smuggler. He was, but like he was always supposed
but he
to be
was
a good
off
person.
screen. He was off screen.
It was always the idea that he's still a good person. He was just someone who was repressing that. They made him into like a genuinely bad person in The Force Awakens, in my opinion.
Oh, really?
I feel like the idea of him abandoning his son, the whole point of Han's character is he isn't actually someone who would abandon the son, and he isn't someone who would run away from the fight. That's the whole point of his character.
I guess I ascribe that more, the abandoning the fight, I ascribe more to Luke, but I take your point because you're right.
My point being that like they
well.
regress that, but even Han does that, exactly, yeah.
Yeah, so to your point, it's a great point about Han. So it's a soft reboot in all the ways that matter, and it's supposed to be a sequel. If it were an actual reboot, right? If this were supposed to be, the new continuities version of A New Hope and it's an alternative timeline, I'd be fine with it. But given that it's a sequel, by definition, it undermines. Like people bitch about The Rise of Skywalker because they're like, oh, you bring back the Emperor, and that totally invalidates what happens at
Vader sacrifice and stuff like that.
But The Force Awakens already did that because what did Vader's sacrifice do? Yes, it killed the Emperor, but it was supposed to bring balance to the Force and destroy the Sith. What are Snoke and Kylo if not de facto Sith? And then you have nerds online go, well, no, actually they didn't have a Darth username or Darth
that's
title.
obviously stupid.
Yeah, for all intents and purposes, they are Sith. Yeah. And so I have a huge issue with that, to say nothing of the fact that it didn't really even try to connect itself to the previous films. And the last thing I'll say is it was The Force Awakens which destroyed Luke Skywalker's character, because it was The Force Awakens which establishes a premise that Luke fled after the New Jedi Order was destroyed. So it set the sequels up for failure.
I do agree.
The Force Awakens.
Women in my community have fled. We are losing the female demographic.
I need to jump in here.
As we speak, it's just gone. Kay can't
Wick, you have like a 99%
even
male
be
audience
in the
anyways.
same room.
Wick, you have 99% male audience.
Let me just one last thing. And arguably the greatest sin to the extent that Star Wars is fan service, and I think a lot of it is, you have Carrie Fisher, Harrison Ford, and Mark Hamill back
And
together.
they never interact.
And you
And
kill
they
off
never
Han, and you don't put a scene with them together. Fuck you, JJ.
Sure.
Anyway.
Okay, so here's what I'll say. One, I do think The Force Awakens does set up Luke in a weird way, but I don't think it was impossible to make it work. It definitely, Rian Johnson just leaned into it in the worst way possible, but it was definitely possible to make it work, although it's faulty. What I'll say is, there's two things. One, I agree The Force Awakens. So I think you can look at the sequels in two ways. You can look at them as how are they written in self-contained stories, and how are they written in the broader kind of narrative. I think The Rise of Skywalker fails at both in worse ways than The Force Awakens. Not that The Force Awakens does both either way. So within a self-contained story, the plot of Rise of Skywalker is way worse. The cause and effect is way worse. Everything about it is way worse. Within Force
Let him cook.
issues,
Let him
But The
cook.
Force Awakens, I think, in a self-contained story, is still written better than The Rise of Skywalker. Now,
Wait a minute. So you're saying you think The Force Awakens is more violative, because you said on both fronts, you think The Force Awakens is better or less bad than The Rise of Skywalker, including the disrespect it shows to the previous films?
yes, because I think now, if you're going to look at the previous films,
Let's do this.
you're not just
Let's
taking The
do
Force
this.
Awakens. You're not just taking The Force Awakens.
Go ahead.
When you look at The Force Awakens, when you look at Rise of Skywalker, you're not just looking at the prequels now, or the prequels, or the original trilogy. You also have to look at the other sequel movies. And The Rise of Skywalker shits on every single movie in the prior
False.
canon.
Here's what I would say. It arguably shits on The Last Jedi with the
I think it shits on Force
the
Awakens as
retcon
well.
with the retcon of Rey's lineage.
They fly now.
But it does not shit on that which came before, because that which came before was already destroyed. I said that The Rise of Skywalker pissed on the ashes of the house that The Force Awakens burned down. I'm not going to blame, like, again, when people say, well, they brought Palpatine back. No, fuck that. To me,
But that's
that is
lazy. In my opinion, it's lazy. It's
there's-
lazy and it's worse.
No,
because
I
you
would
could make
actually-
Kylo the
why?
villain. Why not make Kylo the main villain? That would be more interesting. Like
At
you
this point,
set up
at this point,
redemption.
there was no. At this point, there the connective tissue between the prequels, the originals, and the sequels was so far removed that they had to bring back.
I don't agree.
The
That's
overarching
lazy.
villain,
You
Palpatine.
Ryan-
Palpatine. They're the two most important characters in the Star Wars films are Palpatine and Anakin. Palpatine is more important than Luke. With no Palpatine, there is no story. He's like the Sauron. He is the Sauron of the setting.
The entire point of Last Jedi is saying we are severing from that, right? Like, kind of like the idea of like, look, we want to kind of do something new and kind of disconnect.
You can't do, but I'm sorry, then you're not the
But I'm saying
Skywalker saga.
that-
If you
that's
want to
fine,
do
that's fine,
something
but
new,
you don't-
if you
I'm
want,
saying
if
then
you want to
don't
do
the
something
Skywalker
new,
saga. I'm
Frank,
saying it's lazy to
but
commit
that's
to
what
the
they
Skywalker
did.
saga.
But that is
I'm
precisely
saying, I'm
what
saying
they
that's
did.
what they did, but I'm saying that's lazy. It would have been more interesting to keep the connection to Kylo and make this into a Kylo story.
You know what? No, it's lazy for the
think
Skywalker saga to be part of the Skywalker saga. No. If Ryan
doesn't need to be
Johnson or
Skywalker
anybody
saga.
else, they made it that way.
I
That's their
agree,
choice.
but they could have chosen in The Last Jedi to say no
I
longer.
agree. I would love a standalone movie or series that is not the Skywalker saga.
I'm gonna
But
let
if
other
you're
people
part
jump
of
in,
the-
but one
if you're
Yeah, I
part
do
of the
wanna-
Skywalker saga. It's
One
got
other
to be
thing.
the
I need
conflict.
to-
in terms of
I need to give other
entertainment,
people-
here's what one
Yeah,
other
hold
thing.
on, hold on.
In terms of
Twink,
entertainment, wait,
we
one
do
last
need to
thing.
give
One last
other
thing. wait.
people a chance to have their
This
shots.
will be my last thing. This will be my last thing.
Last thing. Okay.
In terms of entertainment, I think The Force Awakens is more entertaining. I think it has the breakneck action. I do think that the connect. You know why? The chemistry between the main characters is a lot.
There was
stronger.
more. Wait a minute. There was far more chemistry. The three main characters didn't really
they never
interact in The
interact.
Force Awakens.
And there was still better chemistry between Poe and Finn and Rey and Finn.
Stop it. No.
No,
The chemistry
they're
between
nothing
Poe,
characters.
Finn,
They're
and Rey
nothing
in
characters.
the Rise of
In The Rise of
Skywalker, the
they're
banter, the
nothing
chemistry
characters.
going back and forth. They
It
didn't get
feels
to
so
have
artificial
chemistry in
and
The
fake.
Force
It feels
Awakens
so
because the
artificial
three of
and
them
fake.
weren't together.
It feels so artificial and fake. I can't buy it.
Sounds like a you problem. That's
This
all I'm
is-
saying.
This is the nerdiest discussion I think we've ever had, and we've had some pretty nerdy
I am-
discussions. Go ahead, Young Lock. Give
Quite-
us what you got.
Quite frankly, I'm here with a different proposal. The best Star Wars film is Rogue One, and if you disagree, it's because you hate the franchise.
Like you better than The Empire Strikes Back?
Empire Strikes Back is objectively the best.
I'm gonna say yes. It's better
Huh.
than The Empire Strikes Back.
Okay.
It all goes down to one single thing. Darth Vader killing all the rebels in the hallway. That shit is fucking gangster. Don't even sit there.
It
and
is.
get mad.
It is gangster. It is gangster. I'm sorry, not nearly as gangster as Nothing Will Stop the Return of the Sith, and then the Emperor single-handedly takes out 14,000 spaceships. Literally, look it up. It's a canon figure. 14,000 spaceships, including Mon Calamari cruisers.
It's ridiculous.
capital
It's so insane.
Too ridiculous. This is why I don't like Star Wars. The power scaling is just broken on a fundamental
Okay,
level.
who cares
The
about
fact
power
that he's
scaling?
able to just
Who
wave
cares
his
about
little,
power scaling?
his hokum,
Wait,
smoke
Josiah, are you?
The whole thing
Jedi
with
shit
the
and kill 14,000 spaceships. Who?
He doesn't. But
Okay, Josiah, what happens right after I am all the Sith, I am all the Jedi? That was still obviously trying to copy Endgame. I believe that was a rewrite. I don't care if they were filmed at the same time. They were copying Endgame.
Listen, they were absolutely doing right up until the very end. Like, I mean, days before they were like altering shit or whatever. You actually see there are times where Palpatine's mouth is moving, but it's an alternative line of dialogue. 100%.
And I'm saying that was so cringe. That sounded so cringe. That
What was
took me out of the
cringe? I
movie.
mean,
I was in 8th grade when that movie came out. That made me
listen, but this is where I'm sorry, but this is where
Mm-hmm.
I'm with Wick. Like, Star Wars has always had an element of camp and cringe to it. Like, there have been some
Sure, but it
there's
shouldn't be in the
cringe-
climax. Imagine if in like the climax of Return of the Jedi, they're making like a campy line while Vader's making his turn.
Hey, actually, no. I think he fucked up with his retread of Return of the Jedi. Like, when Vader shouts out no when he picks up the Emperor in the remakes. The original, where he doesn't say a word, he just looks back and forth between Luke and the Emperor, and then he silently picks the Emperor up and drops him over the chute.
Okay,
But
you have to choose. You have to choose one. You are forced
Go ahead.
and locked in a room to watch Return
right.
of the Last, the Return of the
Return of the
Force.
Last Jedi.
You know, whatever the fuck
Dude,
this
God
movie's called.
damn, it's
right?
embarrassing that you don't even know.
Look, you got to be locked in the room to watch this over and over for the rest of your life, or the Dune movies, the new ones.
Dune is not
I
even
still haven't
close.
watched Dune yet.
Dune 2 is one of the greatest films I've ever
And
seen.
they're on my
It is
list. I have
a
like a list of
masterpiece.
movies I'm getting to right now.
Okay.
Dune is on my list. I need to watch them.
You haven't
I do
watched
need
the
to.
new
Okay.
Dune? That's a mark against you.
I'd rather watch The Rise of Skywalker.
Of
and
course
here's
you
why.
would,
Not
because-
because
How
not
can we
because-
trust your judgment?
not
How can we
because-
trust your political
not
judgment,
because-
knowing you have
not
such
because
bad
wait a minute,
abilities?
I'm questioning your
Wait a
politics
minute.
right now.
Not, why did I just lose 3 subscribers? What's going on here? Not because they're better, not because it's a better film, but because they're again. So Dune is a very, very. You ever watch There Will Be Blood? Like,
Yes,
I'm
that
trying
was
to
a
use
good
different
movie.
example. Okay, I did not enjoy There Will Be Blood, even though I
Of
recognize
course you
it was a
didn't,
good
because
film.
you
Wait a
don't
minute, wait a
enjoy
minute,
good
because-
movies. You can't
because
recognize
it's
good
no,
cinema.
No. Listen to
There
me.
Will Be Blood was
because-
objectively well written,
because
well acted, well directed.
Listen, amazing writing, amazing acting. Daniel Day-Lewis can do no wrong. But whereas I love Gangs of New York or Lincoln as an example, I haven't seen his new one that just came out. That he came out of retirement for. I have not seen that one yet. But There Will Be Blood was so painfully slow that even though I recognize it's a legitimately great film, it's not one I'm just going to pop in and watch.
This is such a
Rise of Sky-
Zoomer take, bro. Like,
Do you
can
not?
you
Well, wait a minute,
not?
do you
Wait,
not
wait,
appreciate?
can I ask
do you
a
not have?
variation?
Do you not
Andor
do
or
any
Rise of Skywalker?
foreplay? Do you just get to the good stuff right away?
Oh,
You just
Andor.
one bone,
It's not
like
even
30
close.
seconds. It's dragging on too long.
Honestly, Wick, it's been a long time that I have watched a movie from start to finish where I've either not skipped ahead or I've been
That's a
scrolling
yes.
at the same
That's a
time.
problem.
Josiah,
That's a problem.
I'm Gen
and that's
Z.
not-
Josiah,
that's a
I'm Gen
you
Z.
problem,
That's
buddy.
embarrassing.
So,
Even I don't have that
listen,
problem now.
Listen, okay. All I'm going to say is you asked me, we were talking briefly about There Will Be Blood. I don't believe that you would rather watch There Will Be Blood than Avengers Endgame. I don't believe that.
Yes.
Fuck
There
you.
Will Be
I
Blood is
know
a
it. Wait,
objectively
liar.
better
Wait,
movie
wait,
than
liar.
Avengers
Liar.
Endgame.
Liar.
Yes.
Everyone here is lying.
Infinite time. Andor or Rise of Skywalker, Josiah?
All of Andor?
Yeah, let's say all of Andor. You don't have to watch it one sitting. You don't have to watch it one sitting, but you have to choose to only watch one for the rest of your life.
I'd probably Andor. I would pick Andor. Yeah.
Okay, at least he has some sanity.
Can I
Yeah.
make my one quick argument for why I think TFA is better than Rise?
Go.
Do it, sir.
And I don't necessarily blame the Rise of Skywalker for this, but because The Last Jedi wasted so much time in that movie doing absolutely fucking nothing, they didn't set anything up really for Rise of Skywalker to like actually have going on. So they basically had to create the entire plot and then conclude it in like one movie for this whole trilogy. The reason that I like The Force Awakens more, even though I agree it is kind of just like a rehashing of A New Hope, is that there were moments where like scenes were being played out and you had characters getting to like interact and actually you were getting to kind of like get to know the characters, whereas The Rise of Skywalker feels like it was made by a bunch of TikTokers where every 5 seconds the scene has to just fucking change to something else, and you're not like letting any of these things actually play out or like build
It
up.
doesn't breathe. I take your point, like it's so fast paced, it doesn't like breathe the way that even The Force Awakens does because it's not quite so fast paced. But like, what specifically do you mean as far as like the comparative advantages there? Pace notwithstanding, what are things that you prefer about The Force Awakens?
Well, so also going back to the Luke example and Twinkle Star, what? Sorry, he kind of also touched on this
Please
too.
stop referring to me as Twink. You know, Storm is fine. Anything is fine.
sure.
Wait, I blame you for this, by the way.
Blame me? Why?
Yeah, I do. I'm not blaming
well,
Ken.
hold on, but like,
Okay, make your argument. I do have one political question for Josiah before he goes that I want to get to.
Josiah was kind of saying that like Luke's fate was determined where he had just like run away and abandoned everything.
Yes.
I don't necessarily think that's true. I think you could have played with that idea. Like, yeah, Luke left and he wasn't in the first movie, which I think was stupid and it sucked. But I think coming into The Last Jedi, you could have made an argument that maybe there was some like greater mission or greater goal or greater purpose why he had kind of like left. He was trying to find some fucking Sith artifacts. He knew Palpatine was still around. He was trying to find a way to kill like Palpatine's Horcrux so his immortal soul died. You could have just like made up some bullshit with that. It wasn't that just Luke had to be some fucking loser hermit that gave up. I like that is the reason I hate the sequel movies, just full stop, more than any.
Yeah, no. So listen, that's one of the things I hate about it too. But again, I think that was set in stone. And Rian Johnson talks about that in the commentary of The Last Jedi. I actually think it's the last Star Wars movie to actually have a director's commentary in it. And I remember listening to it, and he's like, "Look, this is not. I did not want this. This is not how I imagined, Luke in the sequels. And so when I took this job." And I got the story treatment for basically what I had to continue. Here's what J.J. Abrams is leaving me. He's like, that's not what I would have preferred. But the film establishes, and J.J. meant it, that Luke gave up, that Luke left after Kylo went rogue and destroyed the New Jedi Order. And
I would
so
even say though that isn't necessarily a problem though, because like the reason why Luke giving up is so bad is because of the motivation for why Luke gave up more than anything, in my opinion. Like Luke giving up is bad, but what makes it so bad is him almost killing Kylo because he had a bad dream. That's the worst part.
Okay, so listen, I do think this criticism of The Last Jedi is a bit overstated. So he in a moment, once he senses, he says he's basically reading Kylo's mind. He's sensing the darkness. He senses Snoke, and then we later learn, obviously through Rise of Skywalker, that he sensed Palpatine. Reflexively, he goes for his lightsaber, but then he stops. This is where I disagree with people. You got to remember that the dark side is not just a conscious choice; it's space magic, right? Go back to Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, it's space magic.
What is the Emperor's plan to corrupt Luke? It's just to piss him off, get him angry one time in one moment. He's like the Joker, give me one bad day and I will turn you into an eternal Sith puppet. And the whole point is he actually gets close to doing it because it's not like a series of just conscious choices, right? It's not like it's
a gradual build of your rage in like the space around you, and like the content.
But even gradual, like in a span of like 50 minutes,
Well,
like in less than an hour.
This is one of the reasons Star Wars is a bad story. It would be interesting if it was a corruption, descent to madness story where they lead you down a path.
Well, they did that in the prequels.
That's what Anakin's story is. That's what Anakin's story is. That's the whole point of Anakin's arc. That like this man, he wasn't evil. Anakin didn't start evil. It's this slow and
but they do it poorly,
corruption.
is what I'm saying.
No, I mean,
they do it poorly. It's done poorly.
Yeah, so I
you're
think
sticking to what we were talking about. We'll get to that in a second.
Yeah, so I think there was issues.
Okay,
I think there were issues with the execution of Anakin's fall, obviously in the prequels, but like the logic behind it, that it was a slow percolating plot by the Emperor over a span of decades, and it was very meticulous.
And a manipulation.
Yeah, so that's to Wick's
and
point.
disenfranchisement with the Jedi, right? Or like
right, and all these things. But then you get again to Return of the Jedi, and the Emperor doesn't bother with all that. He's just like, all I have to do is just troll. I'm just going to be a Reddit troll or 4chan troll. Give me 5 minutes with this little prick, and I'll turn him into the dark side. And he gets very close to doing it. That's the point. Is Luke doesn't conquer the dark side. In that moment, he rejects it, but he's not some pure avatar of light. The whole point is, under the right circumstances, that sort of impulse can get anybody. And even then, in The Last Jedi, though he reaches for his lightsaber, he overcomes the impulse again. So I don't hold that against Luke. This idea that he conquered the dark side in Return of the Jedi, therefore he can't ever get pissed off, or he can't ever have a moment of aggression, or he can't ever run that risk again. It's just not
it's like
true.
being an alcoholic. You're always an alcoholic.
Right.
No,
actually, yes. Yes.
I get it. I get it. It's just done poorly. Okay, enough of you nerd talks. I do have one. I'm going to kick you guys. I do have one question for
quickly
Josiah.
before we go. I have a question quickly before we go.
Quick.
Wick, what is it going to take for you to support court packing?
It's going to take good arguments.
Slowly working
okay?
on him. I'm going to
I'll see you
slowly
guys
work
later.
on him.
He got
Okay.
me. He's getting me. He's really close to getting me.
You too. Okay, Josiah, one
Lay it on
last.
me.
This is a serious question, though. I asked this to an earlier caller, and I'm
Sure.
because the blue no matter who thing, right? I've
Yeah.
been having some struggles with it. So I'm going to ask you this hypothetical, okay? The New York Times piece has come out. All those other things have come out. But we haven't had the latest drop yet. Someone comes to you and says, hey, and remember, the primary's over. He's already the candidate, okay? And says, hey, I have this information that is credible and believable that Graham Plattner raped someone. And he presents to you that evidence. You see that evidence, and you believe it. It's convincing. He says, but I trust your judgment here. I don't know if I want to release this information because it'd tank our ability to win the Senate. Do you hide that information, or do you let it go? Do you cover it up, or do you release that information that you have?
What point in the election cycle is this?
He is again past the primary. He is the contestant against
Where we are right now, basically.
Yes.
Like a week ago.
No, I would go public with it. I would go public with it for a few reasons. Number one, it's the right thing to do. Number two, it would eventually get out anyway. And number three, there's an opportunity to get him out and replace him with somebody else.
Okay. What if that deadline is passed? We're talking the 14th of July instead of the 13th, right?
And so we're headed. So he's locked in. There's no
He's
way to
locked
get him
in.
out.
You
He's
can't
heading
replace
into
him legally on
He's
the
heading
ballot.
into the general. I still think it'd probably be the right thing to do to release it. But the other factor is too, if I have it, it would eventually come out anyway.
No, you know for a fact you can successfully cover this up. There is no release. The guy, he's like, if you tell me to, I will destroy it. This is the only copy of these evidence. I will destroy it.
So there's no other way. It's ultimately up to me.
Him and her, him and the accuser, right? The person who accuses him, because she's like, trust your judgment too. She agrees with Plattner's politics, is what she has said, and she's like, we're leaving this in your hands. We don't know what to do here. Please make the decision for us. And you get to decide whether you cover this up, you bury the story, you kill it, or you run with it.
I still think I would let it, I would release it. But you could, let me put you like this. Let me get to the punchline. You could create a hypothetical in this situation that I would seriously consider covering it up. I'm not going to sit here and pretend I'm like a paragon of moral virtue. Like if you told me it's the only way to win the Senate, like there's no other alternative to win the Senate. If you're even more convinced that things are going to get more fashy under Trump, and it's a choice between covering this up or giving Susan Collins another 6 years to rubber stamp Trump, you could probably create a hypothetical where I would at the very least strongly consider just staying silent about it.
And that, I guess that's a problem to me. I guess that's I understand the reasoning. I get it. I do. But we gotta have a better way of choosing our candidates in the future that avoids this problem. There has to be a better way.
Sure.
And I think the blue no matter who has led us down a path where we find ourselves in these situations where, because Plattner hasn't officially dropped out yet. He might not. And what do we do then?
Yeah, I mean, so in the event that Plattner doesn't drop out, in theory, we can still take control of the Senate. It's just going to be a lot harder. I don't know what I would do in that situation. I really don't, because
do you endorse him? Like we can leave the all the hypotheticals.
I mean, I
out.
already retracted my endorsement and said he needs to drop out.
Sure.
If he gets locked in, I wouldn't endorse him. I wouldn't encourage people to go actively vote for Susan Collins, because here's the thing. What we're talking about is, let's just grant for the sake of argument that Graham Plattner is a more personally reprehensible person than Susan Collins, which is probably the case, right? But based on what we know, I mean, Susan Collins' politics and her inaction, I mean, she has, from a utilitarian perspective, far more damaging to the body politic and to the United States than Graham Plattner. So I'd be weighing those things in real time. But I couldn't see myself ever endorsing him again, even if he becomes the nominee. I'm certainly not going to say, hey, go vote for Susan Collins, because Susan Collins voted to confirm the vast majority of Trump's. You can actually tie a direct line through a chain of events.
I want to make this clear to my audience.
Alex Preddy and Renee Nicole Good are dead in part because of Susan Collins, because she voted to confirm Kristi Noem as cabinet secretary, even though Kristi Noem was not qualified for the job. She voted to confirm Pete Hegseth. So all the people that Hegseth has vaporized in the Caribbean, and the 168 Iranians, schoolgirls that he killed, so she is on the whole infinitely worse in terms of the consequences of her action. She is a far bigger piece of shit, just perhaps not on a personal basis.
I guess the question would be, right? Well, the issue is, and what I want to make clear, I'm not asking for anyone to endorse Collins. Absolutely not. But I do think that there needs to be a reckoning with the people who covered up the issues.
Can I ask you? I'm curious. Why wouldn't you endorse Susan Collins over him?
Because she's also engaged in reprehensible behavior that I cannot countenance.
On a personal level?
No, but on a policy level, and that does still matter. I think that if you are willing to take certain policy choices, that can be disqualifying. And I think that Collins has reached that threshold for me.
So they're both disqualified.
Yes.
In your mind.
So I don't think we should be pulling the lever for either. Now, again, if you were talking about let's say a Mitt Romney comes by and he's voted against these things, but he's voted for Republican stuff that I find harmful, but still hasn't engaged in direct, like what I would consider like over the top things, then we have a different conversation. But when it comes to Collins, I think that the proper choice is just to kind of sit out. Now, hopefully we don't get to this. Hopefully we can force him out and he isn't the guy. Any of the major contestants that have thrown their hat in the ring, I think are fine. I have preferences, but whoever wins the nod from the nominees, I think we should support. Like you got Troy Jackson, you got Nivesh Shah, and you got Shenna Bellows. They're all fine. I have my preference, but there'd still be someone I'd support.
So as a general policy, like even with the stakes so high, are you saying under no circumstances, if given a choice, if given a binary between either two suboptimal or two disqualified nominees, are there any other, what are the set of circumstances? We just explored a bit. I just skipped to the punchline that there are certain circumstances where I would, where I could see myself either quelling that information on Plattner or voting for Plattner or whatever. So I want to kind of flip it around and I'm curious, are there any circumstances?
There is a scenario where I would do so too. It's not a very realistic scenario, right? Like
I guess what I'm asking for, just off the top of your head, brainstorm some scenarios where with Trump as president, and Susan Collins as the incumbent Republican, and Graham Plattner as the Democratic nominee, where you would say, oh, fuck it. Guys, you should vote for Plattner. What would it be?
Say new information comes out about Collins that she has killed and ate someone or something like that, right? Where there is like enough.
So it'd have to be personal things. So it'd have to be like Susan Collins.
Well, because personal matters. And I want to make that clear. Like the personal character of people actually matters, because there is going to be choices that senators sometimes have to make that don't really kind of align with policy, and they just have to make a judgment call. And I want someone, and the reason why what Plattner did is disqualifying, not just because the gross or ickiness of it, right? Is because he's shown a willingness to hurt other people because it gives him pleasure. And someone who has things come across their desk, whether it be in a committee or other things, where they have to make that judgment call, I think that he's demonstrated that he is willing to act in a way that I cannot trust his judgment here at all. and I don't think he should be given that.
So a couple of things. Again, I take the unlikely hypothetical of Susan Collins being part of like some baby eating cult.
Yeah.
But I'm asking, I guess, on a more practical basis, is there anything policy-wise that could come out of this Republican Party that would prompt you to vote for or encourage people to vote for Plattner? Let me ask you this.
I think if I knew for a fact that Collins was in support of we're going to genocide all the Canadians. Sorry, Kay.
Okay.
Then okay, yeah, at this point, fair enough. Okay, right?
What about, again, I'm just trying to think, I'm trying to narrow it down to as close to reality as possible. What about that Susan Collins would vote to overturn the 2028 election? Or
that's a yeah. Oh.
Or vote
no,
to
that's
confirm.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
Yeah.
That's a good one. I think at that point, if I knew that for 100% sure, then Plattner. If I knew for a fact that she was willing to vote to overturn the to overturn the will of the voters, and be involved in a plot to overthrow the Democratic government, and she was going to do it, then I'd have to give the nod to Plattner.
What about okay, so we got that.
But
so
I
at least
wouldn't
that's
like
one.
it.
No,
And
no, of course not.
I don't like. I don't know if
expect
I would
anybody-
advocate for it, right? But if I had in my pen in my hand and I was going to make the mark on that ballot, then okay.
What if you felt okay? So there's that at least. What if you felt okay? She wouldn't be part of a conspiracy she would just vote. She would either vote in a way to facilitate Trump or Vance overturning. Oh, fuck it. I'm sorry, not even 2028. Let's think 2026, the midterms, that she would try to get shenanigans to keep Democrats from being seated or in either the House or the Senate.
It's much that's much more like I would have to look at like the specifics. Are we talking about like voting for the SAVE Act? No, I don't think that would qualify.
Well, no, but I mean, like, there's a procedure.
Even though you could make an argument that would facilitate them doing that, right?
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking more like the voting that they tried to get done during the 2020 election. Vote to object to the election outcome. And get the ballots passed back to the states. Remember that effort that Trump was trying to get.
Remember that effort.
Trump was trying to get Republican lawmakers in the House and the Senate to vote in a way basically to object to the 2020 election, to get the results basically tossed out. If you felt that Collins would lend her vote to that, or that she would not, or that she would even just give her "I'm concerned" bullshit and not actually do anything about it, which is what she usually does.
I don't know. I'd need something more direct, honestly. I'd need something more direct than that. I still wouldn't be able to. I just still wouldn't be able to pull the trigger for Plattner. I just couldn't. I would not be able to live with myself knowing that I put someone like that in power, because there's a difference between inaction and inaction, and yes, both can be bad. But I think taking an action that I knew would support a rapist.
For the trolley problem, right?
Yeah,
you wouldn't pull the lever. You just let the trolley run.
I couldn't do that. I'd be like, no, I can't be part of the problem here. And I think that the reason I say that.
I'm not saying this is necessarily how I feel. I would just say that a lot of people would say you are part of the problem either through action or inaction. Kind of like you're part of the problem if you see a kid drowning in a pool and you don't jump in to save him. You're a piece of shit too. I'm not saying. I'm just saying that.
No, I understand the argument. I'm getting what you're saying here. But I think that the problem is that so many people are willing to choose the lesser evil in a situation that it has led us to a point where the lesser evil is a rapist. Like, because that's not a hypothetical. That's where we're at. And luckily, thankfully,
I mean,
the Democratic Party, can I finish? Luckily, thankfully, the Democratic Party is actually doing the right thing here. They're withdrawing their endorsements. They're withdrawing their support. They're withdrawing their funding. They're kicking him out or doing their best to kick him out, right? And pressure him out. That's the right thing. That's what I want to see happen. But I'm concerned that in the future, there are people now who are advocating against that, by the way, right? They're few, right? Thankfully. And their voices are being overturned. But there are people who are saying, no, fuck it.
Oh yeah, I saw. Like, listen, I had to have a pretty honest conversation with like members of my audience. When I first broke the news about Graham Plattner, like the initial reaction, I had dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of people. Many unsubscribed and many left hateful comments. Oh, this is bullshit. Blah blah blah. We need to be more ruthless. And I'm like, yeah, but not like in this way. We need to be more ruthless in abolishing the filibuster, packing the court.
Yeah, there's a difference,
we need to be,
right?
Yeah, we need to be ruthless politically, not ruthless like rapily. And so I had to I did a video about it, and it took me 3 hours to record because I don't do scripted videos, and I have to do it all in one continuous take. And I kept getting so angry that I kept fucking up. So it took 3 hours to record the video. And I was like, look, if you guys want to unsubscribe because I'm telling you that this is credible, this is serious, there's a substantiation, corroboration of these claims, he needs to drop out. And if he doesn't drop out, he is going to lose, then bye. But it's just the God's honest truth. And I said, if you don't want to hear it from some lib cuck like me, and you prefer somebody who's been a Graham Plattner cheerleader from the beginning, Hassan Piker, Emma Vigland, all the big leftist streamers that I'm aware of, they're like, he needs to go. So it's just, I don't hear a lot of people, but I do see people in the comments section, who want to stand by him.
Yeah, and so that's what I'm worried about, that we will get to a point that people are just like, fuck it, we ball with this. And I don't want that to happen. So I think that my argument here is that the slogan has been perverted, blue no matter who. No, there has to be lines. There has to. And I think that the start of this is people recognizing that there has to be a line. But go ahead.
It's kind of like the slogan. I remember when a lot of people used to get upset at the slogan "Black Lives Matter," right? Well, what about white lives? And a friend of mine linked me to an article where he's like, look, when they say Black Lives Matter, they don't mean Black Lives only matter. It's like Black Lives Matter in parentheses too, right? And so vote blue no matter who in parentheses means as long as it's better than a Republican, right?
Yeah,
that's right. So
your big line that you've said all over and over again is that the worst Democrat is better than the best Republican. I don't know if that's true in this case. The worst Democrat's Plattner.
So the worst,
I don't know if he's better than the best Republican.
I'm not actually sure. Number one, I'm not actually sure he's necessarily the worst Democrat.
Who's worse than Plattner?
He's not the one who. He's the one that jumps to mind immediately. But I am unwilling to commit to that at the moment. There may actually be, in hindsight, worse people than that. I mean, Bob Menendez didn't rape anybody, but he was it was conspiracy.
Yeah, but we got him out, right?
But he's also, Graham Plattner's also not in office either. So when I say the worst Democrat, I'm talking about the elected politicians currently in office. And yes, I mean, Graham Plattner as a candidate, as far as we know, is personally much, much worse than Susan Collins. But again, I go back to even that. I would argue, if you look at the grand scope of her actions and inaction, she has done much more harm to the United States,
but it's not
than Graham Plattner.
It's not as direct, and it's not as morally condemnable because of that directness. And it doesn't speak to we can acknowledge that some people, just because they believe that a policy will help America, but it really won't, right? The fact of the matter is it won't.
Mm-hmm.
But there can be an argument that they would believe this. I think that is less morally condemnable than someone who rapes someone
knowingly.
Because there's no scenario where you could argue or make the argument that there's a pro and con thing here with rape, but you can with policy. And I think that you could argue that, and I reject this argument, by the way. I think it's wrong. That I think that preventing illegal immigrants coming in and ruining America is more important than the safety of some of the citizens, right? So we have to weigh and measure this, right? That's a wrong calculation, but I can understand the calculation that exists. Does that make sense?
Well, yes and no. I mean, yes, if you accept any stupid premise as having some legitimacy, then yeah, you can make that argument. I would argue that there's no good faith legitimate argument to make to defend the Trump program that's remotely defensible. So I do categorically
but it's more
reject that.
defensible than rape.
It's true. it's true if you lie about what it is. Like if you say, listen, I'm voting for Trump because he's going to make America great again. How can you argue against that? Well, it's like, well, I'm right and you're wrong. He's not making America great again. We'll go through the fact of the matter. I mean, you could probably find some lunatic out there and like, here's why rape is good, right? And we'd be like, no, it doesn't stand up to factual scrutiny. It's the same thing as far as like Republican politicians supporting Trump. There is no good faith argument for it. It's bad policy and it's done damage to the country. And I would argue it's also played a role in this, right? So the prominence of the MAGA movement and Trump becoming a 3-time Republican nominee and a 2-time president, has directly contributed to what we're seeing now with Plattner, right? So you're concerned that there is some faction of the left who's willing to go to MAGA's lows. Now, I, unlike the right, don't assume that only the left has agency, right? That's those people's fault. That when members of my audience are making excuses for Plattner or members of anybody's audience, that's on them. But part of the reason they've been driven to that is because they see it in MAGA. So I would argue, if for no other reason, Susan Collins or whoever it is aiding and abetting Trump along the way, they have created, in large part, the environment that we're seeing now, where character is seen as not just a high priority.
Yes, that is true. No, I don't disagree with this argument that they have, in large part, exacerbated this problem, and they are, you could even argue, are responsible ultimately.
They are not exclusively responsible, but they are primarily responsible.
Yes.
Yeah.
But all that being just agreed to does not change the fact of the matter that now we have a growing segment of our party that is willing to engage in that behavior, that if they are given the wheel, are leading us to elect, again, credibly accused rapists. And that's a problem for me. And
I mean, again, that's, I condemned it.
Like this, we agree on this. We agree on this. Yeah, I get it. But
yeah.
I don't know.
So listen, I think that if there's anything to take heart from here, it's, as you said, like on the whole, the Democrats are actually doing what the Republicans are too stupid and too cowardly to do, and actually policing their own. And that's one thing I've seen from pretty much everybody on the left and the lib left, as they grapple with this. What we should not do is tolerate bad faith criticism coming from right-wingers on this. If you're a Trump supporter, you can fuck off. You automatically lost the debate. You have no credibility here. You have no moral high ground. We can compare. You can saddle me with Plattner, I'll saddle you with Trump, and I'll win and you'll lose because your guy is infinitely worse than the Democratic candidate. I'm sorry, that matters. So I think we should take heart that we should be kind of inspired at how the Democrats are responding to this and encouraged.
Most of them, yes, most of them. But that inspiration
it's a mass movement.
At the expense. It cannot come at the expense of holding my side, holding the left to account here when they fuck up, which many have. Not you, but I've seen many people, Cenk Uygur, I've seen...
Cenk's response to this was psychotic.
Stephen King... there are a few others, right? Influencers, and even before, like there's levels.
Was Stephen King the author?
Yes, the author. But he's like Plattner shouldn't drop out. Keep it going. Yeah.
Stephen King's Twitter is like run by his. Well, there's a theory that it's like run by his activist Reverend daughter.
Is it?
Is this like? But wait, is this like a parody account, or is this actually
no? It's
like
his actual.
No, it's like actually as Stephen King. Yeah.
No fucking way.
Yes.
I'm googling this.
It was crazy. It was crazy that I was like, "What are we doing here?" And less than that, I give less culpability. But the people who, after all these red flags were popping up about Graham Plattner, right? After we saw the red flag of him lying about the Nazi tattoo, him, the New York Times
Graham Plattner
stuff,
may drop out. I hope he doesn't.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Stephen, no.
It's like, yeah. And so you just gotta realize that these people exist in our space and in our party, and you can't, like, we gotta answer. We gotta hold these people accountable, and less so accountable because they have since withdrawn their support. But the people who were saying that, well, the New York Times author, not the New York Times author, but the New York Times accusers couldn't be credible because they were Republican, I found that kind of a gross accusation to make, right? Like, as if being Republican means you're immune to being sexually assaulted or physically assaulted.
Yeah,
Like,
that's just somehow you're rape proof.
Yes.
That a Democrat can't rape you.
yes, and that's
Yeah.
that kind of push by people. I think I'm not going to name names because I don't have a list of me. I don't want to make these accusations without direct proof. But there were quite a bit of large political commenters making these kinds of statements and these kinds of arguments. You can probably find out if you research. That needs to stop, and we need to just stop engaging in that covering up of sins because he's our guy and we want him to win. The Pod Save guys, they were the ones that broke the tattoo story, I believe. But they did it in such a way as to minimize it severely, and they should not have done that. They should have been holding this guy's feet to the fire, because when these kinds of red flags pop up, it is possibly indicative of a pattern of behavior which will show more in the future. And so instead of covering up for them, we need to press them. That's my advocacy.
Yeah, I mean, listen, there's no doubt there was a massive failure of vetting here, and it is a black eye on the part of the anti-establishment left who, are trying to compete for power within the establishment to take control of the Democratic Party. I think that there was a sense of my assumption is that following Eric Swalwell in particular, who was kind of seen as like an establishment vanguard, there was this idea like, fuck, not only do we think they suck on policy, the establishment liberals, but also they're also personal pieces of shit as well. And so not only is Graham Plattner somebody we prefer on policy, but okay, if he has skeletons in his closet, it's not like he was doing what, Eric Swalwell's doing. And then here we go, right? I mean, so, and I had a conversation with Mike Nellis, who's a Democratic strategist and commentator, and he's been on a media blitz. He was on Fox and CNN and MS Now and News Nation and Newsmax all in the past like 24 hours. And when we were going through, because he had a viral moment just yesterday or the day before on Fox. He was like,
yeah, but about why aren't we talking about the Republican candidate or Republican person who congressman?
Yeah, Graham Plattner. Yeah, Max Miller and Donald Trump and whatever.
Who has again real credible accusations of domestic abuse, right? Real credible. Yeah.
No, 100%. I mean, photo evidence and everything, and they're just, again, the Republicans just don't care. And at the end of that conversation that I had with him, he's like, look, this is where the inner factions of the Democratic Party have got to, obviously they're not going to come together on this, but it's like, okay, so we've now established that whatever we disagree on in policy, we can have establishment figures who turn out to be giant pieces of shit and anti-establishment figures who are pieces of shit. And maybe the reflexive urge should not be to do just the exact opposite.
No. This is you're both siding this. Okay. I did not see Stilwell stands that were excusing his behavior. When it was found out, everyone pushed him.
No. I'm not talking about how people react. I'm talking about the quality of the quality of the character.
Yeah, but when we're evaluating the establishment versus the anti-establishment left, you have to look at their reactions to these things. Because I think anyone can be evil, right? Anyone can be a bad person. Anyone can have these things, regardless of their politics. But the metric I'm using in distinguishing between the factions and the parties is when this occurs, how does the party, how does the faction, how does the camp respond to it? And that matters.
Yeah, but Wick, so a couple of things. No, I was saying that we were talking about candidate quality there in part, and I was saying that my conversation with Mike, we talked about how what we're hopeful, not optimistic, but what we're hopeful on is moving forward, that the liberals and the leftists will go, okay, we have at times picked pieces of shit, and maybe our reflexive urge should be not just to do the exact opposite of what the others do, because like that's part of the reason why I think they embrace a Graham Plattner is that he wasn't an establishment figure like an Eric Swalwell. That's just a really bad metric by which to evaluate things, right? So okay, one is kind of this like posh checkered person or posh buttoned up person. The other one has tattoos and he says shit and he's got a Reddit history and whatever, and that's real and that's authentic. Maybe we shouldn't just reflexively go towards that, even if we have a preference on policy. I take your point that that when the allegations came out about Swalwell, I'd have to go back and check. I don't remember a ton of people defending him in that way. But also, I'm sorry, the Politico allegations, which just broke, I'm sorry, are fundamentally different and far worse than what was alleged in the New York Times article. And when the Politico story broke, we did see
it is worse.
Some of the most.
It is worse.
Much worse.
But the New York Times was still bad enough. I don't know. It was bad enough. Anyway.
Okay, so I understand that's where you drew the line, and a lot of people
we're
did.
Talking about
but
domestic violence, right? We're talking about someone who took a woman, twisted her arm, and locked her in a room.
Right. So when the apples to apples comparison came with Swalwell, Plattner was dropped like a hot potato.
Sure.
So what I'm not going to do, and I don't know, I'm not saying this is necessarily what you're asking me to do. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that when a Swalwell level crime was alleged against Plattner, that the left, the biggest names on the left, just continued to prop him up. From what I saw, Hassan Piker, Emma Vigeland, Kyle Kalinske, Crystal Ball, they all dropped him like a hot potato. Now, what I will tell you, something gross that I saw from a prominent figure on the left in the past 24 hours was Ryan Grimm really emphasizing the text messages that preceded Jenny, and I'm blanking on her last name, but the accuser, the victim.
I don't know how. Yeah, but I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
Referencing a glute massage. Like that has anything to do with anything. For number one, as far as I'm aware, nowhere did the text messages even indicate that she's like, "Hey, come over and massage my glutes." She just referenced her glutes needing a massage, but when he wanted to come over, she's like, "No, do not come over." So when Ryan is over here like, "Aha, key detail," it's like, not really, and it doesn't materially change anything. And it really did come off like her skirt was too short sort of thing. Yeah. That's fucking gross. And you're right. I didn't see anything like that coming after Swalwell. But no, I'm not going to look. There's a lot of things to criticize the left over in terms of its Plattner situation. But I'm also not going to pretend that like they're locking arms and standing beside him in solidarity. As soon as this Politico
like I said, they're
broke,
fundamentally better than Republicans because we are pushing him out. And a majority of us, a vast majority of us, on no matter what faction you were in, after these accusations came out, are disavowing him. That is good, and I want to praise that. But we do have to talk about what led to people covering up things because look, I'm going to be real with you. When the accusations from Politico dropped, they weren't the accusations that I expected to drop. There are other accusations that have been rumored to be coming out that are even worse. There was another drop yesterday of a stealthing accusation. I don't know if you saw that. Another woman.
Was that where he took his condom off?
Yes, another woman accused him of that.
I didn't. Yeah, I heard about that. I don't remember that being in the Politico article, but I
was
kept
not.
hearing
it
that.
was not. It was a different.
Okay.
The Washington Post, I believe, reported on this, and it was a different thing.
Yeah.
But the point is that there is a large body of accusations that are still yet to be seeing the light of day.
Oh, sure. This could be the tip of the iceberg.
And my argument here is we should have known this by his responses to the other accusations and the weight of the other accusations. Even though I would agree they're not as bad as the Politico accusations, but they're way he responded to it and the way he did. But anyway, go ahead, Kay. You wanted to jump in here?
No, I was going to say a lot of people did foresee accusations.
Yeah,
like
this was predicted.
Based on the whole if you look at all the behaviors that were listed and the Reddit posts and how he's been behaving and how he acts and how he carries himself. It certainly
doesn't seem jarring. Yeah, it certainly doesn't seem jarring when you look at the red flags, right? Not that necessarily drinking too much or even all these tattoos necessarily leads to the allegations that we've seen today, but like when you look back retrospectively, it's like this is not a major plot twist. Yeah.
Anyway,
and somebody who's like had all those problems and changed tends to carry themselves a bit differently.
Anyway, it's almost 9 o'clock. Josiah, thank you for coming and have these discussions. We're going to have more. I do want you on, not next week because I'm going to LibCon, but I want you to come in and have these discussions with us because I think we need to talk about who gets the nod after this, right? Who should we be pushing to get the nod for the nominee? There are 3 major candidates, and I think they're all worth discussing, and we need to have that conversation. I'd love to have you, Hutch,
Ossoff,
a few others.
Is that one?
No,
that
we're
you're
talking about the
thinking of?
Maine for Maine.
Oh, Maine.
Senate.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I thought I was. My mind's going to 2028.
No. So
yeah.
the three main ones in Maine are Shanna
Troy.
Bellows, who is the Secretary of State. You have Niva Shaw,
Troy Jackson,
and you have Troy Jackson. And those are the
Mhm.
3 main ones that I've seen. There might be more in the future that come out, right? But we need to talk about, okay, well, who do we pick? And what should we be advocating for here? So, yeah.
Well, the other thing you probably have not discussed this one, but another topic I'm throwing out there is at some point you need to talk about court packing. I mean, just like nobody's talking about this. It needs to be discussed a bit more. I'm just saying,
It's
like, we gotta have
it's possible that we'll have this anyway. But anyway, I do gotta go. I want to let you go, Josiah, and
Yeah.
thank you again for calling
Good chatting
in.
with you.
Always a pleasure.
Bye, guys.
Okay, Kay, thanks for putting up with us today. Is there anything you want to say before we wrap this up? Anything we didn't get to talk about that you think, hey, we should probably talk about this more?
Not off the top of my head, and it's getting late, so we can talk another time.
Okay, we can talk another time. You're always free to call in. You're always free to be yapping with us. But I do appreciate you. Gang, what do we got coming up? No show tomorrow. And the next show that we got coming up, the next official show that we got coming up, I think is going to be on the 17th. And it will be live from LibCon. And I haven't gotten the official guest list yet. But me and Soypill will be co-hosting. And we will be talking to some of the figures there. We're trying to get Ezra Klein. That's in the possible range of people we could have on. I'd love to have Ann Applebaum, Kathy Young, Francis Fukuyama, CIA Renee. There's quite a few people there that I would love to get on. I don't have an official guest list yet, but tune in. It'll be great. I do have to read the super chats though, and then we'll just end. So thank you, Zero Fox, for reminding me. If you have to go, Kay, I understand. Where can people find you?
You can find me on YouTube at Morally Loaded, and I usually stream Tuesdays and Fridays with Tally. But we're gonna be streaming tomorrow at 2:30 in the afternoon. So come check it out.
2:30 in the afternoon. Check them out, gang. And if you can't get enough Kay and Tally, that's where you can find them. Okay, so I do appreciate you. Okay, I'm gonna go through these.
Thanks, Vic. Take it easy.
Yeah, you too. $5 from Lawson Harrison. Plattner is not, and was not ever, blue. I'm going to remind everyone of this for every Vote Blue discussion. That's a discussion we can have. I think it's worth discussing. Did you guys, I didn't know that Graham Plattner was actually younger than I am. Did you guys know that? It's crazy. I thought he was like 50 something. But no, he's 41. And I'm 42. Wild. Okay. Sorry. Thank you for the Tier 1 membership from Caramel Cold Brew. Only 80% Trump, 100% dirtbag. True. It's Fishy. Member for 1 month. Would you vote Plattner if it meant majority Dem? No, I would not. $5 from Gabian. Don't vote blue no matter who. Like factoring merit? Ew, like icky Republicans have been talking about for decades. Good luck with that nonsense. If you think that the Republicans vote on merit, you are wrong. No fucking way for $5. Says, it sounds like Wick is saying felony sexual assault is a line too far. The law already objectively frames crimes as felonies versus misdemeanors. Could be a North Star. Could be. $2 from Gay Ben to say Dems coming out strong against morals. LOL. The whole point of this is we're talking about morals. Okay. Tier 1 membership for 12 months from Zero Fox to say K is awesome and W principles over pragmatism. True. $10 from No Fucking Way. Question for Wick. what percentage of Democrats do you think are in the camp of I'd vote for Epstein over Trump? Wild, even hearing these pauses. I think it's too big of a percentage. I don't know the exact one, but it's too big of a percentage. $10 for no fucking way. He cut off his wing wang, lit it on fire, and used that to light his mom's house on fire. He could be the bluest blue on all the blues, and he's still frickin' nuts. So there are lines. Yes, there are lines. $5 from It's Fishy. Would you vote for Plattner if it meant blocking Trump from appointing 2 more lifetime appointments to the Supreme Court? No. $5 from Greg Yale. Wick, why do you think the right never has conversations like this? They don't seem to have any standard of behavior for their candidates. It's because they do not value morals and they value power. $5 from Das Vildanya. Can you ask Josiah if he sent an apology fruit basket to Representative Jake Auchincloss over not endorsing Plattner? The people wish to know. Josiah, did you apologize to this representative for not endorsing Plattner? Did you? First of all, I don't know the lore here. Did you excoriate this representative for refusing to endorse? You should apologize in that case, Josiah. You should say sorry. They were right. Okay? They were right not to endorse. Okay. $5 or 10 Wick TV gift memberships from AK Batozai. Thank you, sir. That is very kind. $5 from Stormwolf. Beautiful. The Alex Kirsch Project, $5. Wick, put me in. Y'all are missing the key thing on Star Wars. We are not having another Star Wars discussion. Thank you for the $5, though. 100 ARS from Real Serious. If you were a Jedi and knew Anakin had the dark side in him, would you tell Yoda and risk the Separatist Alliance winning? I don't. Okay. Star Wars. We're done with Star Wars. Super Dupers for $10. At what point in Republican history would Josiah be okay with losing the Senate to Republicans? Anything non-MAGA? Tea Party? Neocons? Never? When is a Republican better than Plattner? Josiah will answer these questions next he's on. Das Vildanya for $5. Really, the core of the Plattner issue is that he is so clearly a liar. The individual acts he's committed are bad, but the through line is he's a liar. Well, the rape's also bad. The rape, even if he told the truth about it, would be disqualifying. Even if he wasn't a liar, the rape would put him over the line for me, okay? Even if he was super honest about it. Even if he came up and like, guys, I've repented and I've changed my ways, but I raped a woman once. I'd be like, no, you don't get to be one of the most 100 most powerful people in the world. You don't get that honor. You don't get to represent me. Sorry, it is disqualifying, and I'm afraid it's disqualifying for life. Sorry. Not sorry. 5 more Wick TV gift memberships from AK Batozai. Thank you. Pondering Politics for $5 says Longwell, Klein, and Applebaum would be great. I would love to have Sarah Longwell on, and she's one of the people that we might get. I've ranked choice them, but I'm waiting to hear back. And I'm super excited. I got mics, gang. I got like these 4 mics, and I got an interface so we can plug them all in and get them all set up. It's all exciting, and I'm really excited for it. And I hope you guys tune in. $5 from Tempest Gray. Who would you rather have, President Destiny, the soy pill, or Hutch? It's got to be the Hutch. Hutch would be my choice as president. Hutch and Destiny. Destiny will be the vice president. Soy pill could be Speaker of the House, and Hutch will be president. Okay, those are my choices. $10 from Grassroots Hegemon. If you put 1,000 people from a prison and Plattner in a lineup, ask me to guess their crime, I would have got Plattner. No one who cares about consent lets that mustache live on their lip. Fair enough. Okay, gang. I think I'm done for tonight. And I'm excited. Oh, I owe 3 songs. I'll give you one now. How's that? I'm a little teapot, short and stout. Here is my handle. Here is my spout. When I got a steamed up, then I shout, tip me over and pour me out. There you go. That's a song. Anyway, that's one song. I love you guys. I'll see you next week. We are we are still going to have like releases of clips and edits and things like that that'll be going all week, every day. Tune in for those, watch those. If you like my content, if you like my channel, if you want to see me grow, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and super chat at me. I love you all, and I will see you guys next week. Bye.